Podcast City Network.
Hey guys, and happy holidays. We are here again for another live episode of Final Score, episode 41, our last one of the year of 2019. It's been a crazy year. Of the decade. Dude, we've been killing it. We've been killing it this decade. No, we're not been around that long. I don't know. A lot of people claim a lot of things are in the decade, but one thing's for sure, it's going to end on a big bang, and then we're going to go into 2020 with a lot of crazy things that's happening, especially in sports, because today is a big day in college football, among also NFL tomorrow, so it's going to be a lot of craziness going on. But first things first, if you like Final Score, there's this little thing you can do. It's real awesome. All you got to do is go over to our social media accounts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Search at PCN Final Score. Give us a like. Give us a follow. You can see all of it right here above my head. Right there at PCN Final Score. So definitely check it out. Give us a like, give us a follow, and more importantly than anything, leave us a rating. Let us know how we're doing, because we try to bring the very best show that we can to you guys, the fans. But also, you can also check out on all of our content platforms, whether it be Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Podbean, YouTube, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Play Music. That is so hard to say in just one breath. But make sure you go on there, search keyword Final Score, one word, and you can find us there. And if you don't know where those are, just look down below, right there. Just follow the arrows.
Right down there.
A lot of nice things that we add here to the show. But again, we are here for a very exciting episode. And first things first, we got to talk about college football playoffs. It's going to be exciting. 2 games today.
Yeah, this is going to be a huge day for college football. You got number 4 Oklahoma. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice.
It's
been a rough week for me. Yeah, it's been a rough week for me. But number 4 Oklahoma is playing against number 1 LSU in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. It's at 4 o'clock. That's in Atlanta, Georgia, and this is gonna, I think, could be a very, very quietly, like, very good matchup. I think it's gonna be really close early. Oklahoma, they can put up points. LSU has been dominant all season, and it's going to be a tough game, I think, through the first half, maybe the first 3 quarters. And I think the fourth quarter, I think you're going to see the talent gap between LSU and Oklahoma really show. And I think LSU is going to end up taking it. The score is probably going to look pretty easy.
Right.
But I don't think it'll be an easy game at all.
No, I don't think it'll be necessarily easy. The one thing I always look at, especially when matching up Big 12 school or a Big 12 school to anybody, is that Big 12 schools don't play a lot of defense. So with the high-powered offense that LSU is throwing up there, especially behind the arm of the one and only Joe Burrow, he's thrown for 4,700 yards, 48 touchdowns against only 6 interceptions, has a 77% completion percentage. The guy's been playing out of his mind. Oh, and yeah, he plays even better against tough competition, because against top 25 competition, all of his stats go up, and he ends up becoming just even more of a Superman, because he's the kind of guy that you can literally throw in and is able to elevate everybody around him. He's able to lead his team where needed, make the plays that are necessary, and be able to get himself there against top 25 talent this season alone. 78% completion percentage, 1,800 yards, 15 touchdowns, 2 picks. This guy can't be stopped.
LSU's been in some really big games this year. They've played a lot of then top 25 teams, and they've been in some tough environments. I mean, say what you will about Texas, but when early in the year, when they were looking good, and they were ranked top 10, they went into Austin and won on the road. I mean, that's a tough environment. I don't care if they're a 10-win team or an 8-win team. I mean, they are a tough team to play in that environment on their home field. So for them to do that and do what they did against Texas already spoke volumes so early in the season about the talent of Joe Burrow.
Absolutely, and Joe Burrow's been killing it. Been a one-man wrecking crew, which led him to being our Heisman winner this year, which we'll touch on that a little bit more later. But this game, I think, will be kind of close early on, but I think once you start getting in the second half, that LSU offense is just too good. Along with that defense, I think is going to wear down Jalen Hurts and this Oklahoma offense to the point where Oklahoma is going to end up just kind of stagnating, I think, going into the fourth quarter, not really be able to keep up. This is going to end up being a war of who can score some more points and just hold the other guy off just enough. LSU is going to end up winning this one, though, I think by 2 touchdowns, and is going to advance to the national championship game. Oh, man, that's going to be exciting. But in our other game, we have number 3 Clemson taking on number 2 Ohio State in the Fiesta Bowl at 8 p.m. at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona tonight. And it's going to be a great matchup. I had to wait all the way till now to make a selection because I felt this game could honestly be so close. Clemson has been on a huge tear this year, with the one exception being North Carolina by 1 point, which was a shocker to many, but they've really rebounded greatly since. But Ohio State has been amazing all year long.
Yeah, over the past 6 or 7 games, I mean, Clemson has really turned into the team that everyone thought they were to start the season. Obviously, they got off to a little bit of a rough start. They still dominated the no-name teams that they played, but
absolutely,
that North Carolina game, I think, opened their eyes to see like, oh shit, we actually got to play. Like, we can't just cakewalk through the whole season. So I think that was a bit of a wake-up call for them. Trevor Lawrence is finally playing like the Trevor Lawrence we got to see last year.
Yes.
Travis Etienne has been amazing. I think wasn't he Offensive Player of the Year in the ACC this year?
He was Offensive Player of the Year ACC.
This is going to be literally. I mean, we're talking about 1-4. That's going to be a good game. This game right here is going to be like two Titans. Like, both teams have been on an absolute tear this year. Ohio State just running roughshod through every opponent they've faced, and not even by close. I mean, most of their wins have been against bowl-eligible teams, and they've destroyed them. I mean, you're talking about like Cincinnati, who they destroyed Cincinnati. Cincinnati almost won the AAC. But I think this is going to be I think this will be actually a very close game. I'm going to give the edge to Clemson here, just because they've been in that stage. Dabo Swinney has been able to coach in these big situations before. Ryan Day hasn't as a head coach. This is his first go-around. Now, obviously, their talent level is way up here compared to other teams, but if there's one or two other teams that can match them talent for talent, Clemson's one of those names.
Clemson, I feel, has a really good shot in this. When you look behind the great coaching of Dabo Swinney, with having Trevor Lawrence as your pivot, which is always huge because Trevor Lawrence is a great talent. Was suspected at the beginning of the season to be a Heisman hopeful. Obviously, a lot of that got cooled off with how we had to show that he's pedestrian. He is a person. He's not just Superman out there. But he still played really great games. But the big thing I look at is they didn't really get challenged this year. I feel like they didn't really face anybody. I feel that really could do anything. You even look at the ACC title game. That was just a mockery. They absolutely ran all over Virginia and made them look silly.
Well, to be fair, I mean, Virginia is a good team. I mean, they were ranked in the top 25 earlier in the year. They were on the rise before, Wake Forest kind of overtook them a little bit. But that game, I think Virginia definitely deserved to be in the ACC title game.
Definitely.
But the talent gap, even look at the game they had against Wake Forest. Remember how good of a start Wake Forest had this year?
Oh, yeah. Then Clemson comes out and wins by 49.
Yeah. So I think that just shows the talent gap in the ACC. Now, this is going to be really interesting because we talked about all the experts have kind of talked about Clemson's defense last year was so star-studded, and they said so many players in the NFL. What are they going to do this year? They followed it up by having a better year statistically on defense than they've ever had under Dabo Swinney. So that is going to be a real test because Justin Fields, you've seen what he can do, and he is. I honestly thought coming into the season that he was not going to perform as well as he has been, just because it's a new offense, it's a first-year player. You got to get a feel for the offense. That's not the case here. Justin Fields looks like he's been playing in that offense for 3 years already.
Yeah, he definitely does.
So, I mean, I don't know if that's a testament to his skill set or the testament of the coaching staff of putting the right plays in front of him so that way he can run them. But, I mean, this Ohio State team is one of the better Ohio State teams that I've seen in a very long time. But Clemson, I think, is also like this is going to be a great heavyweight fight. Like, this is pound for pound probably going to be one of the best bowl games we're going to see all year.
I absolutely agree. And because Ohio State offers such a conundrum to Clemson, I think this game is going to be ultimately just the closest of ultimate battles you've ever seen. I think this literally could come down to whoever has the ball last, maybe even a little extra. We might even hit a little OT. This game is going to be good. However, Clemson, with all the things they've done, with a huge winning streak that they're on, that spans over almost 3 seasons, Clemson is a great team. However, like you said yourself, Ohio State, this is probably one of the best Ohio State teams I've seen in a really long time. Plus, you have Chase Young on the defensive side of the ball who could wreak havoc for Trevor Lawrence.
Right, but look at what teams have done against Chase Young in the last couple of games. The Big Ten championship game, the game against Michigan. Yes, Michigan got their asses kicked, but Chase Young was nowhere to be found because they were triple teaming him all game.
Right.
Like teams have finally realized, I guess we've got to put more than 2 guys on him. We got to put 3. We can put the whole offensive line in front of him. All right, let's do it.
But that's the thing. If you try to move that offense to do that, you're gonna leave other guys open, and that's what's gonna be.
They dangerous. Can, but the one thing that's really helped Trevor Lawrence out, and this is one of the things that I was knocking on him early this year. You probably remember this. He was just throwing prayers up to his wide receivers.
Very true.
But
got lucky sometimes.
But they're some of the most talented wide receivers in the country.
They are.
So that's going to be a really interesting. I think this is going to be an offensive shootout on both sides of the ball.
Oof, I don't know about shootout. I see this coming down to the wire, but I'm giving the edge to Ohio State. I feel that this is the moment that Ohio State can really show that they have what it takes to be here, that this isn't just a fluke. They've actually beaten a lot of good, notable teams. Clemson's just been kind of, like you said, going through a weak ACC with a huge talent gap. I think, honestly, Clemson's going to get caught off guard. And I think maybe they almost expect to win this game. And how are you going to have a team expect to win against the number 2 team in the country? But at the end of the day, Ohio State hasn't been the most relevant since Urban Meyer left. So, Urban Meyer goes out the door. A lot of hopes and dreams kind of went with it. And people were like, it might take a year or 2. But who expected, like you said, first-year offense, first-year quarterback with a new head coach, and now you're sitting here number 2 in the country. At one point, it was even number 1 until LSU shellacked Georgia. But
you forget that while Urban Meyer's not coaching on the field, he's a teacher at the school. No, he's been coaching Ryan Day all season. Let's not get that twisted. I don't give a crap if you're the diehardest of Ohio State fans. At me, bro. Like. Urban Meyer has been involved with this team all season. Don't tell me that's not true, because he has been involved. I mean, you can't tell me that one of the biggest, I guess, someone that's been on one of the highest pedestals in Ohio State football just all of a sudden disappears from the team after retiring again, quote unquote, because he probably slept with another student intern or something.
Whoa.
But he's still under contract with Ohio State.
This is true.
Just don't forget that. So he's been involved with this program.
Even with that, I feel like that gives you an extra boost, because you do have Urban Meyer in the wings trying to help your new head coach, pushing you to this 13-0 record behind all the great players they have. Honestly, I think Ohio State has everything in the corner. If they're going to do it, now's the time. And I think they will do it. And I think it's going to be about a 27-24 final score for Ohio State.
Yeah, for Ohio State, they're really going to – this year – it's all Urban's players. Next year, still a lot of Urban's players.
Then we get to the
that third year that you're really going to see what kind of recruiter is Ryan Day, what kind of a development type guy is Ryan Day, because we've seen it happen before. Where in the first year, I'll give you a good example. Lloyd Carr, when he took over at Michigan, the first year, 97 national championship co-champions. What happened after that? Not much.
Nope,
because they weren't his players. After that,
and they had some good teams, but they weren't never to that level.
So that's going to be the big thing for Ryan Day. How can he recruit and develop? Because I mean, throwing myself under the bus again. Jim Harbaugh, top 10 recruiting class every single year. What do we got to show for it? 8 and 9 win seasons and like a losing bowl record. I don't even know if he's got a bowl win. Like. That's not recruiting. I mean, that's development.
And you know what? The selection committee definitely did not help you guys. Notre Dame got Iowa State. I feel like we have a good chance. Today here in about half an hour when we kick off in Orlando. But you guys got Alabama, and you got to play in the same house. Like,
I wholeheartedly believe that Michigan should have declined that invite, and they should have played against USC last night.
Woo! And USC got shellacked.
Yeah.
That was a beautiful sight. If you didn't catch that game, Iowa.
Oh, and by the way,
killed USC in the Holiday Bowl.
You still thinking twice about bringing Clay Helton back for another year, even though you just got your ass kicked in a bowl game?
I mean, they already
by a mediocre Big Ten team.
No, it's okay. That's why they fired the offensive coordinator. They're going to bring in someone new. That'll somehow fix the problem.
Don't worry, Urban will be there at USC very shortly.
No, he will
Don't
not.
worry.
Not happening.
I'm going to win that bet, man.
No, you're not.
And you're going to be donned in all USC gear. It will be fantastic.
Oh, gosh. You're going to see me puke live on air. Anyways.
I will gloat harder about that than I will about the Michigan-Notre Dame game.
Oh, my gosh.
And I didn't even gloat hard about that.
No, you didn't. You didn't.
I tried to be respectful to you.
It's because we took it in ways that we shouldn't have. Anyways, so moving on to some news, though, we want to get back to our Heisman winner. We didn't get to talk about this one because obviously we were on hiatus last week with my own illness. Flu's been running rampant down here in Florida. I don't know about other parts of the country, but it's been bad.
Yeah, it's been absolutely despicable.
Despicable. Ha.
It's been horrible. It's been running everywhere.
But our Heisman winner ended up coming down to being LSU quarterback Joe Burrow, the senior out of Baton Rouge, who threw for 4,715 yards, which was second best in the country, 48 touchdowns, first best in the country, against only 6 interceptions, which was tied for 27th best out of all pivots in the NCAA, and while throwing for almost 78%. This guy was precision.
And that completion percentage was also one of the top in the country. He was top 10 in completion percentage. Yes. It's one thing to have a bunch of yards and a bunch of touchdowns like some of these other quarterbacks in the country.
Right.
But if you're doing it at the clip that he was doing with in the top 10 in completion percentage, that's telling you you're very efficient with the football. And he's been huge. Obviously, he's really catapulted his draft stock. He's probably going to be the number 1 pick. I mean, I hope he likes Cincinnati.
I was just about to say, I hope he likes Cincinnati.
Well, it won't be that bad because he played at Ohio State for a little bit, even though now Ohio State is claiming him. Ha, funny.
Yeah, after the fact.
Yeah, cool. Just like Michigan State can claim Nick Foles. Get the hell out of here. So anyway, but Joe Burrow is going to probably go back to Ohio. It's going to be an awesome story for him because of where he grew up in Southern Ohio. I actually think this would be it's going to be a very good fit all the way around because Zach Taylor wants to kind of mold the organization in his liking.
Of course.
And Joe Burrow is going to be a great start. So I think that would be it'd be a win-win for both parties.
Yeah, that and you look at the kind of setup they have right now with the wide receiver position. AJ Green's going to come back. He's going to be 100% and healthy now. He sat out pretty much all this year after having his injury. And then Taj Boyd's playing good. You've been having a couple other receivers that have been stepping up. You still have Tyler Eifert running around out there.
Yeah.
So I feel like honestly, if you just get a few defensive pieces, upgrade the offensive line a little, get Joe Burrow in there as pivot, I think you'll take a lot of pressure off Joe Mixon to get him running again. So I think a lot of good things could happen in Cincinnati if they ended up going and getting Joe Burrow. So.
Yeah. Speaking of them, that's actually a good segue.
This is a perfect
That's a great segue.
Perfect
Speaking
segue.
of the Bengals, they're at home 1-14.
Oh,
they got the Browns who are somehow 6-9, even though everybody was saying they're going to be an 11, 12-win team, win the AFC North, make it to the Super Bowl. They still don't have a winning season, people.
Yeah, and I said 12-4.
Yeah, that's rough.
I think I even downgraded 11-5, and they still didn't even hit anywhere near that.
Yeah,
so.
nowhere near.
But you know what? The Browns, I got to say, at least look competitive. And you know what? They do have a very historic little tidbit we need to talk about right now.
Yeah.
And that is the one and only Baker Mayfield, who actually started all 16 games for the Browns for the first time that a quarterback has started a full season for the Browns, I think in almost, 15, 20 years? I think it's 18 years.
I'm trying to think of who the last one was.
Oh, my God.
I want to say it was... No, it's not Drew Stanton. I want to say it was... Was it Tim Couch?
It might have been Tim Couch.
I don't think it was Tim Couch.
No. It could have been Derek Anderson, maybe.
Was it Derek Anderson?
It could have been. Oh, man.
This is great.
I'm going to look this one up.
So, hey, if you're watching us right now, Facebook Live, comment below. Let us know who was that person. Because that would be... I think that'd be a pretty funny little stat, but
yeah, maybe we'll have to give something away if somebody chimes in.
Hey, do a little giveaway. That'd be cool.
Yeah,
we're in the giving spirit. We got our stockings hanging up and stuff.
Exactly,
yeah.
Holiday spirit, and I'm all about it. I'm the guy that literally would dress up as Santa because I do not care. I love Santa.
You got the hat for it.
I got the hat, and I got the jolly ho 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 thing going on. No, was that not a good one?
Sure,
I'll have to practice it. All right,
but the Bengals, the Browns. Do you think the Bengals can pull off the upset?
I want to believe in that, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think honestly the Browns are going to go into Cincinnati and still be able to pull out the win, because they're still going to play hard. They want to try and do the best they can because they want to. I think the players really want Kitchens. They want to try and make sure he stays as a head coach, and that's the biggest thing. The Browns need some continuity, so I think they're going to try and play their heart out for their coach, and they're going to end up taking this one. I think it might actually be close though, because Andy Dalton's been heating up as of late, so something to kind of keep an eye out on.
I've been saying this for weeks. The Bengals have kept games competitive competitive, and that's what you want to see if you are trying to do a complete turnaround of an organization. I mean, obviously, you don't want to. You want to win those games, but the Bengals have been competitive in most games. I would not be surprised seeing what the Browns did traveling to Arizona, a game they should have won, and they lay an egg against the Cardinals. I would not put it past them to lose this game.
Right. But
talent-wise, there's no comparison. Cleveland's much more talented than Cincinnati at this point, so I'm also taking the Browns.
So I also found out who that quarterback was, but I'm gonna allow the fans to get on here, answer. Maybe they might win themselves something. Go ahead, answer. Let us know who the last full starting quarterback was that started the entire season, all 16 games for the Cleveland Browns. They might have a little bit of swag. We're gonna throw your way.
We should tweet our friends at Big Play.
We should.
They would know.
Oh, I know they would know. They'd snatch this up so quick.
Yeah, tweet the guys at Big Play.
Oh man, but still, a lot of great games are going to be happening tomorrow. So definitely gotta check it out. Obviously, we just talked about Browns Bengals, but we also have another matchup. We have the 6-9 Jets traveling up to Buffalo to take on the 10-5 Bills. Yep. Who do you got?
Man, this is tough because I think the Jets need to, they need some momentum going into the end of the season. Obviously, they're not making the playoffs, but Bills also need this win for momentum in the playoffs. They're at home. You don't really know what you're going to get. I think this game's going to be a little bit closer than people expect, but I'm going to take the Bills in a tight game.
I think the Bills also are going to take this one, but I also think it's going to be a tight game. Jets have been coming on a lot better the second half of the season, playing really hard for Adam Gase. But the Bills, though, they still want to try and get the best record they can, but they've already qualified for playoffs. So at this point, the Bills might try to rest maybe some of their starters and try and coast. So we'll definitely see what happens. Bills have not announced if they're going to rest any of their starters. So it's going to be an interesting game. But either way, I think the Bills have a lot better talent, especially in the run game, to be able to take this one from the Jets, and they're going to take this one close. In another 1 o'clock game, we have the 12-3 Packers taking on your Detroit Lions at 3-11-1. Man, I said the Lions were going to have a bad year, and you were swearing up and down 8-8 was going to be possible for you guys.
It would be possible.
Oh, if you still have Matt Stafford, that's what it comes down to.
Oh no, they need a lot more help than that. But no, the full tank mode engaged. It should be. We're gonna need some help here because who do we need to win this weekend? We need the Redskins to win. That's about it. We just need the Redskins to win. And we can secure the number 2 spot, and we can take Chase Young. It'd be great. We need it. So, but yeah, there's been a lot of issues with the Lions this year. I could literally have my own show talking about just just Detroit sports, but there's plenty of other more very talented people that do that right now. So, and I don't have the time. So, it's just the Packers, even on the road, they need this win to get home field in the playoffs, and the Lions are in tank mode. I'm going to take the Packers.
Yeah, I have the Packers winning this one, too. The Packers also, if they can get a win in this game and also have the 49ers and the Saints lose, the Packers end up becoming the number 1 seed in the NFC. So the Packers still have a lot to play for. Having the entire playoffs run through Lambeau, I'm sure the Packers would love to have that in their favor, especially playing in front of that crowd in the frozen tundra. So Packers definitely have a lot to play for and are definitely going to come out and try and handle business against the Lions. The Lions have looked just dismal. I had a meme I actually yanked from NFL memes I was going to share today, but I didn't get it uploaded in time. Great meme about Detroit sports and how bad all of them are.
Yeah, this is usually there's always one team because we've had the Red Wings for 25 years that were always making the playoffs. They had the record consecutive streak for making the playoffs. And then, of course, you got the Pistons had their 6-year run of Eastern Conference Finals. It's usually one of those two teams. And then the Tigers were good for a bit. We got so spoiled in the mid-2000s because all 3 of the 4 teams were actually good. Mm-hmm. And now it's back to...
Well, then right after that, the Lions honestly got a little better.
Yeah, a little better. Yeah, it's funny because I had a conversation with some friends of mine. We're all Detroit sports fans. And talking smack about Jim Caldwell. Mm-hmm. And I basically... I can't totally defend it because Caldwell could not win big games.
Right.
But he was at least competitive. Well, and he was at least having winning seasons.
He would, yeah.
And we were second in the NFC North twice while he was there.
Looking at it with this meme, it has Red Wings 9-26.
I know the records. Trust me.
The Tigers
47 wins.
14.
Yes. Lions 3-11-1, about to be 3-12-1.
And Pistons.
The Pistons like 12 wins.
Not even 11-20.
Yeah. So there you go. It's pretty close.
Oh, it's so close. But things happen. But either way, though, the Packers are going to take this one. I think they're going to end up taking it big. I don't even think Aaron Rodgers is going to play deep into the third quarter.
I have a perfect response to that meme with my own GIF.
Oh, here we go.
This is the way.
Oh my God.
All the Mandalorian fans know what I'm talking about.
Oh my goodness. In our next 1:00 game, we have the 5-10 Chargers traveling over to Kansas City to take on the 11-4 Chiefs. If the Chiefs win, they will get the second seed and a first round bye. Also, the Patriots will need to lose. So as long as the Chiefs can win and the Patriots lose, Chiefs will get that first round bye in the second seed in playoffs.
I'm taking the Chiefs in this game. They're at home, and they need that. They need that win to try to get better playoff positioning. The Chargers, I would not be surprised if their head coach Lynn gets fired after this year. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's just not the direction they're going. They've got a lot of question marks to address. Mm-hmm. They've got a good defense. You got Derwin James. You got Bosa. You got Melvin Ingram. You got those guys. Those three off the top of my head. And on the offensive side, you still got Eckler. You still got Melvin Gordon for now. But you got to figure out what are you going to do. You got Hunter Henry. What are you going to do with Phillip Rivers? Is he going to come back and play another year? He does not look like the Phillip Rivers of old. Mm-hmm. And I think it might be time they should finally address the quarterback position.
And this is the final year of his contract. That's another thing, is I think that San Diego, L.A.
It should be San Diego.
It should be San Diego, though. The Chargers, I think, are still going to want to move on from Phillip Rivers. I feel there's too many good quarterback prospects that are coming out, especially being in the draft position the Chargers will end up in, that it's going to be too good to pass up. And I think that they're going to need to pounce, because even if you don't get Joe Burrow, which we know is going to go very early, you still got a lot of other guys coming out. Like Jalen Hurts is a big one that's pretty big on a lot of people's boards. And there's a few others, but it's...
We got Justin Herbert from Oregon.
And you got Easton coming out of Washington.
So, he's a weird prospect, though.
I think he's going to be another Daniel Jones. Good. I think he's going to be like a Daniel Jones guy.
Oh, I don't give him that much credit.
I
think he'll be more like Browning.
Oh, I agree, but I feel like people are going to view him like a Daniel Jones, like, oh, he could be the diamond in the rough.
Nah.
Then you're going to eat it.
Yeah, Fromm in Georgia, or is he still got another year?
No, Fromm has declared for the NFL draft as well.
Okay, so Fromm's coming out. There's another one too, a smaller school guy who's a pretty big prospect. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Anyway, we can talk about that in the off season.
Yes, when we hit off season, we eventually get to our draft preview. But there's a lot that they could do to try and better with their position. Either way, though, they're not going to have enough to take on the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to want that first round bye. It's so important in the playoffs, and with how the Patriots usually play against their opponent, you never know what's going to happen.
No idea, yeah.
So at the end of the day, though, I think the Chiefs will take this one. I think they're going to take it big, and Mahomes is going to show why he's such a good quarterback. No, too much in the morning? I thought we were being festive. Anyways,
we are.
In our next game, we have
He's a great quarterback, but side note, have you seen his pictures of his younger brother?
No, I haven't, actually.
His younger brother towers over Patrick Mahomes.
Like DK Metcalf status? Or
I mean, like, he's got to be, what's Pat Mahomes, 6'5"?
Roughly.
The kid's got to be 6'7", 6'8". Woo. Kid is huge. And he's very unathletic. Have you watched his TikToks? His TikTok videos are they're so hilariously bad, but I give the kid credit because, I mean, he's having fun. Yeah. But it's so funny.
But it's like watching Sasquatch.
I'm going to show you some of these after the show. They're hilarious.
All right. But in our next game, we have the 7-8 Bears traveling on over to the Twin Cities to take on the 10-5 Vikings. The Vikings, I've already locked up their playoff position and will be resting their starters. So honestly, in this one, the Bears are just playing for respect. And given the Vikings are going to be without starters, I honestly have the Bears taking this one, and I think it still will be close, but Bears are going to have the superior talent.
Vikings are benching, I think, 2 running backs, defensive end, linebacker. They're benching so many players. They need to get healthy for the playoffs. They've already locked it up, I think, 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
So they are in. The Bears, I think just because of Trubisky still needs to prove that he belongs as the QB1 of that team. Mm-hmm. Matt Nagy needs to prove that he is still the deserving head coach of that team. And I think because of those reasons, I'm with you. I think the Bears win. It'll be a tight game because it's on the road, and but I think the Bears, coupled with all the resting from the Vikings players, I think it'll be Bears in a close one.
Definitely. In our next 1 o'clock game, we have the 4-11 Dolphins traveling on up to Foxborough to take on the 12-3 Patriots. The Patriots will get the second seed and a first-round bye if they win this game. The Patriots cannot get a first-round bye thanks to the Ravens being not only one game up, but having a win over the Patriots. So no matter what, playoffs always are going to run through Baltimore this year in the AFC. But the Patriots can definitely put themselves in a decent position if they can pull this one off against the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are going to be definitely trying to play spoiler as much as possible, and we know how some of these Patriot Dolphins games can turn out, and of course we can always remember the miracle in Miami with the huge play that Miami had at the end of the game to be able to pull it off against the Patriots. So it's going to definitely be interesting, but I think the Patriots at home are going to be able to take this one close.
Yeah, I'm with you. The Patriots at home, but don't underestimate this game because the Patriots we've seen play down to competition, unfortunately, which is something we'd never see out of them. But I think with them being at home, if this game was in Miami, I'd have a much different outlook on it just because New England never plays well in Miami.
No, they definitely do not.
Based on their last matchup and how, the Patriots need this win to get a first-round bye, I'm going to roll with the Patriots at home in the season finale and get that first-round bye they need.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting looking at how that game's going to play out because a lot of people at this point are blaming Tom Brady for a lot of their woes. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out.
That's another situation. Tom Brady, in the last year of his deal, what are you going to do with him? He finally, I think, is showing some decline in his play.
Oh, yeah.
He's not as accurate as he was. He's got the worst completion percentage in his career this season. So it's not a good sign if you're a Patriots fan. But the one thing about Tom Brady, once you get in the playoffs, all bets are off. Guy just knows how to win games.
That's right, and that's going to be the big thing is how all that's going to play out. Looking at our next 1 o'clock game, we have the 6-9 Atlanta Falcons traveling on down to Tampa to take on the 7-8 Buccaneers. This one's going to be interesting. No playoff implications, no nothing. Just playing for respect at this point. The Falcons are going to have a losing season no matter what, but have been on fire the second half of the season. Buccaneers, though, up and down because it all ends up being on the arm of Jameis Winston and how he plays. So 7-8, very indicative, I feel, of their season. Yeah,
and the Buccaneers, they've lost Mike Evans. I believe they're out with Chris Godwin as well.
Yes, both on IR.
Both are on our IR, but Shaquille Barrett, 16 sacks this year. He's been a stud for them coming over from Denver. This game, I think, I'm going to take the Bucs just because their passing offense is tops in the NFL, but Atlanta's passing offense, third. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. Dan Quinn just got he was informed earlier this week that he's coming back for next year, so you're going to have that continuity. So I would not be surprised if the Bucs win and get to 8-8, which most people did not expect that out of the Buccaneers this year.
No, most were expecting maybe a 4 or 5 win season, including us. So definitely gonna be interesting if that happens. However, I think the Falcons are just too talented and too hot lately, especially with the announcement of their head coach coming back, along with their GM, that they're going to be able to keep a lot of good continuity. Plus, the great passing weapons that they have is going to be great. I think the Falcons are going to end up taking this one. I think it's definitely going to be a shootout, but it's going to be a very high scoring.
They're too talented. But you forget that the Buccaneers beat the Falcons last time, and they're 5-2 in their last 7 games. Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, that's
making sure we're clarifying that.
That's fine.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because it's okay. James Winston's going to throw like 5 interceptions.
But he's also going to have like 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, it'll bounce out. That's why it's going to be so high scoring.
Yeah, 1 pick for every million.
Oh, my goodness. But in our last 1 o'clock game, we have the 12-3 New Orleans Saints traveling on over to take on the Carolina Panthers at 5-10. The Saints right now will get home field in the playoffs with a win and a loss by both the 49ers and the Packers. So a lot of playoff implications in these big-time games. That's what's interesting, I feel like, this year is that with the NFC side, there's so many teams that have a spot, or have a chance, I should say, in the final week of the season to be able to lock up home field advantage. Yeah, the NFC is probably the most talented we've seen in a number of years. I mean, even with the lowly NFC East, there's a possibility that the Cowboys could still win the division and make the playoffs. But this is what the NFL wants. Yes. Every single season in Week 17. They don't want it how it was 5-7 years ago when teams were benching players 3 games left of the season because they all had things wrapped up and the games didn't matter. Now they've got it set up. So Week 16, Week 17 are division games for most teams, and there's something on the line. It's great. It's great television. I love it. Oh, yeah. But the Saints, they do have a lot to play for.
this is going to be an interesting matchup because Christian McCaffrey is the Panthers offense and the Saints have the 5th best rush defense in the NFL. So I think this is going to be a pretty wide margin. I think the Saints are going to take this pretty easily, even on the road.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think the Saints are just way too talented, especially with how well Drew Brees is playing, especially getting that connection to Michael Thomas. Of course, there's a lot of little news surrounding the Saints right now, which we'll touch on a little bit later. Yeah. But as I sit right now, the Saints are just way too good for the Panthers. I think the Saints are going to take this one by a tremendous margin.
And I don't really see anybody to match up to be able to contain Michael Thomas because he's already set the record for most receptions in a season.
Yeah, over 145 receptions.
I mean, he's got almost 1,700 yards. He's averaging almost 12 yards per catch, which is
sick.
Absolutely nuts. I mean, you got to think about that. That is more than a first down every time. Just shows you how much Sean Payton likes to push that ball down the field. I don't see anybody that's going to match up with Michael Thomas. I think he could have a big game.
Absolutely. In our first 425 game, though, we have the 3-12 Washington Redskins, who are now going to be without Dwayne Haskins now that he has been shut down for the year, who's going to be traveling down to Jerry World to take on the Dallas Cowboys at 7-8. The Cowboys are hoping not only to get a win here, but are hoping for an Eagle loss. That way they can try and tie up the NFC East for the second year in the row, which would be the first time since 2005. Who you got in this game?
Cowboys, and I'm very hesitant about it because we were talking about earlier, the NFC East is it's just so unpredictable. You have no idea. It's more so a detriment to the Cowboys. You don't know what you're getting week to week out of them.
Yeah.
You don't know. They should have, ever since they beat the Rams a couple weeks ago, everybody's like, all right, Cowboys are back. They're going to roll, and they're going to go in there with 9-10 wins.
And then they went to Philadelphia.
And then the Philadelphia game happened. They scored 9 points. The offense looks horrible. I really don't know what to expect out of this game, but I think the Cowboys will do just enough to win, get to 8-8, and then just pray that the Giants have a major upset. But the big question for the Cowboys is not, can we make the playoffs? It's who's coaching this team next.
Yeah, because we already know Jason Garrett's going to be out at this point. You can't have a team this porous going back and forth with this much talent and not make the playoffs.
I don't understand how he's been there for 10 years. I just don't understand how. Actually, I completely understand how he's been there for 10 years. He's a yes man for Jerry Jones.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Somebody on Twitter, I think it was a sports writer for CBS or somebody, put down a list of all the players that have played under Jason Garrett that have all wasted their primes, and the list is long. The list is long, but that just kind of shows you what this Cowboys team has been all about. I mean, they've had so many talented teams. Have 0 Super Bowls to show for it. They have 0 Super Bowl appearances to show for it. And you knew at some point Jerry was finally going to pull the plug on this. And for Cowboys fans, unfortunately, it's a 7-8 season leading into the last week of the year.
And we finally got an answer to our question earlier.
Yes.
I'm scared about who it was though.
Why? Who is it?
Chris Carnage. He's watching the show.
Oh no.
He's watching us.
Oh no.
We got to watch out. But he said Tim Couch, which is the correct answer.
I said Tim Couch.
Started all 16 games in 2001, even though he split time the year before and even the year after. So he split time in 99 with Ty Detmer, but in 2000, before he became the full-on starter, he shared time with one game Spurgeon Wynn, whoever that was.
Spurgeon Wynn? You don't remember Spurgeon Wynn?
Barely, but the other guys.
6th-round draft pick?
Who's more interesting, though? The 8 games that were started by one Doug Peterson.
Oh, Doug Peterson, yeah.
Yeah. And then Tim Couch took over fully the next year. So definitely quite interesting. And
well, shout out to Tim Couch there.
Yeah, a little shout out to Tim Couch. We're going to send Chris Carnes something, or he's going to have 5 of us through these tables. So I think the Cowboys, though, are going to do just enough to win this. The big thing I worry about with the Cowboys is that Dak Prescott is still having issues with his shoulder, which he was having issues during the Philadelphia game, and I think that really hurt him in that game as a whole. He was barely able to get the ball to Cooper, and really the only weapon he had was Michael Gallup. But the Philly was playing great defense, though. They were able to break up a lot of good passes and stuff of that nature. So it's not a take away from the Philly defense. But the Cowboys have so much going on offensively in a negative fashion that it's just hard to trust this offense at this point. Zeke Elliott couldn't even get going. He only had 13 carries against Philly. So that's another thing they're going to want to look at to try and get going. But with the Redskins being down Dwayne Haskins and not really having a pivot, I think they're actually going to be going with Colt McCoy during this game. It's going to be really hard to trust anything with the Redskins either. So I think the Cowboys will take this. I think it'll be close, but they'll definitely go to 8-8, and we'll pray, but prayers will not be answered.
I don't know, man.
So in our next 425 game, we have the 7-8 Oakland Raiders traveling over to Denver to take on the 6-9 Broncos. Running back Josh Jacobs is doubtful after having his own injury issues this week. So definitely going to be a huge blow to the Raiders. Who do you got?
I'm going to take the Broncos at home in an upset. Now, the Raiders still have an outside chance to make the playoffs. They need a lot of help. But think about this. These are two AFC West rivals. The Broncos are finally gelling under Vic Fangio. They're finally playing well. Drew Lock is playing like the guy that they hoped he would be in his first year. I mean, albeit it's his first year, don't expect a lot, but
right.
He's been playing well. He's been 4-1 in his last 5 games.
Yep.
They're rolling. I mean, they are rolling right now. And another tidbit, I've brought this up before, Derek Carr does not play well in cold weather.
This is true.
At all. And it is going to be cold in Denver for this game tomorrow. And there's even talks that David Carr might not even be the quarterback next year for the Raiders when they move to Vegas. Because, John Gruden says one thing about Derek Carr and then turns around and says, he wants to draft Kyler Murray instead.
Yeah.
So take that as you will, but I think the Raiders are going to go in another direction at quarterback next year. But the Broncos are going to spoil the Raiders season. They're going to send them to Vegas with a loss. And the Broncos are going to have a surprisingly strong end to the year after how horribly they started.
Absolutely, which will be good for them. However, I feel that the Raiders are going to be able to overcome those odds. Even without Josh Jacobs, they've been able to, at times, find players to step up when they need to most. Derek Carr, yes, does not play traditionally well in the cold, nor does he play traditionally well at Mile High. So another thing to keep in mind as well. However, I think he's going to be able to buck that trend because even though the Broncos have been playing a lot better, some of those wins have been against some better teams, but they've looked not that great against the worse teams. So I feel while the Broncos aren't quite as cardiac as the Cowboys, the Broncos have kind of shown that they can be good or bad depending upon the situation. Drew Lock still is a quarterback in his maturation process, still learning to be an NFL quarterback, and I think he will be a quarterback of the future for the Broncos, and I think the Broncos honestly will have success come next year. But that's next year. We still got to finish this year. And I think the Raiders are going to be able to go out, especially after having a loss in their last game at home in Oakland, are going to want a little bit of revenge. Are going to want to try and end on a high note and at least get to 8-8 before going to Vegas. So I definitely got the Raiders taking this one, but it's going to be close. In our next 425 game, we have the 5-9-1 Arizona Cardinals traveling out to LA to take on the 8-7 Rams. Rams, I know, are definitely down. They are eliminated from playoffs at this point. So definitely a very sad season after having a Super Bowl appearance last year. So not much to play for. Who you got in this one?
I'm going to take the Rams, but I think it'll be a tight game because the Cardinals are also finally gelling under Cliff Kingsbury. They had that surprise win against the Browns not too long ago, and they've actually, this is what, if you get a new coach, this is what you expect to see. You're going to see some struggles early on, but you want to see them gel and start playing like a team in the end of the season for your first year, unlike Matt Patricia. And so I think that the Cardinals are moving in the right direction. I think it'll be a tight game. I did really badly want to pick the Cardinals in this game, but I think the Rams, they're a little bit too talented. They are kind of feeling the effects of that Super Bowl hangover. But I think ending the season on a high note, 9-7, will give them some juice, some momentum to come back next year and be stronger.
Definitely. I have to agree. I think the Rams are going to be able to take this one. It will be close. Cardinals have been playing great these last few weeks, finally getting this air raid offense off the ground. And I think they're going to have a great future once they get every little piece they need to, because this offense has been completely molded for Kyler Murray at this point. And as we've seen with some of the moves they make, bringing in Kenyon Drake, I think David Johnson's going to end up being out. Larry Fitz is going to end up being on the way out just because of how long he's been in the league. I think they're going to be starting to look for that new top guy as a receiver. And then shoring up that defense, because the defense later in the season, especially after they got Peterson back, honestly started playing a lot better. So definitely watch out for the Cardinals, but it's not going to be enough in this season, I think, to beat the Rams. The Rams, I know, are very down about the kind of season they had, especially with all the weapons they have on offense, all the weapons they have on defense, with Sean McVay and the great coaching he's done, especially being one of the youngest coaches ever to do what he's done. But I think the Rams are still going to be able to pull this one out very, very narrowly, and are going to be able to go on and move on to 9-7.
Yeah, it helps if you're the Cardinals to get one of the better corners in the NFL back.
It does. It really does.
I'm really surprised at how Kenyon Drake's been playing. He had 130 yards, 140 yards last week, and
he's been torching it. Since
a lot of like myself included. I slammed the Cardinals for going to do this move because it made no sense to me. But now you see it. I was wrong. I'll admit it. They are building, and I wouldn't be surprised if they bring him back. And we talked about when this trade was made, they brought in Drake. David Johnson's probably out the door.
Yep.
So now I think they got to make a trade for him, re-sign Kenyon Drake. This will be a really interesting offseason for them also because now looks like they turned the corner a little bit. But if they can upset the Rams on the road and pull up to 6-9-1, I think that's a huge win for Cliff Kingsbury in his first year.
Absolutely. In our next 425 game, we have the 8-7 Philadelphia Eagles traveling over to the New Meadowlands to take on the 4-11 Giants. Giants are trying to play spoiler. If the Eagles win, they are in and will be NFC East champions. However, they will be without tight end Zach Ertz, who cracked a rib last week against Dallas at home, and they'll also still be without wide receiver Nelson Aguilar, but they will get running back Jordan Howard back, so definitely something to keep an eye out for. Who do you got in this game?
I so badly want to pick the Giants. Giants. Look at but in the last matchup, look at what the Eagles had to do just to go to overtime against the Giants. Giants are finally as healthy as they've ever been all season. Saquon Barkley did not have a great game against the Eagles because that stout run defense. But look at what the last time they played, they had to play against Eli Manning. Since Daniel Jones has come back, don't forget what Daniel Jones did last week. Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes he's had his 5 touchdown game.
I feel like he had almost 400.
I told you I've been on the Danny Dimes train ever since. I hate you right now. I told you my voice is gone. I'm just getting over being sick. I apologize. But I can't even do it right now. But I'm going to take the Eagles. I think it'll be a tight game. I would not be surprised if the Giants do win this game. But I think the Eagles, with the win, they get the NFC East. They get to host a playoff game, and I think that is huge. That'll be all the motivation they need. Look at what Carson Wentz has done without basically any weapons. I'm talking 0 weapons. You were talking about the injuries they have now. We were talking about a stat that he has. He could be, I think you said it was the first 4,000-yard passer.
Yes, it was he could be the first. He's 250 yards away from being the first quarterback to have 4,500 yards in a season while having no wide receivers with over 500 yards receiving. And that's a testament, I feel like, of this team that they have battled through all the injuries. At one point, they had over 10 players on IR during this season. They have been without the number 1 and number 2 wide receiver for over half the season. Number 3's been out most of the second half of the season. You've been without your top running back for pretty much the whole season. You've been lucky enough Miles Sanders was able to step in, and when he wasn't able to work, Bart Scott was able to step in and do stuff. So
I would even argue to say that Jordan Howard is not the top back there.
I don't feel he is. I think at this point it's Miles Sanders, and he's proven that.
And I think they knew when they brought in Jordan Howard that he was a rental until they got somebody like Miles Sanders, because you don't draft a guy like Miles Sanders or the other running backs they have in their room. You don't draft those guys without the expectation of them taking over. And you know what? Jordan Howard had a down year in Chicago. They wanted to get rid of him. And I would argue to say that Miles Sanders is the RB1 on that team. And It's just Jordan Howard's just there till his contract's up at the end of the year and he'll go somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think he'll be gone because at that point you're going to have a great running back tandem between Bart Scott, Miles Sanders. They are sadly going to be losing Darren Sproles, who did announce he's retiring at the end of the season.
Yep.
But you're still going to have some good backs there because there was others they had on IR like Clement and stuff of that nature. So I think if this Eagles team was fully healthy, I think my original prediction of 12-4 could have been absolutely doable. However, for them to even be at this point to be able to win the NFC East outright, having all the injuries and all the things that have happened, because they're still without Lane Johnson as well.
Right.
They just got Brandon Brooks back. They have so many things going on in every single phase of their team. Honestly, hats off, Doug Peterson.
I was actually just about to say that same thing. Like, I know your prediction was massively overestimated, but I think you, as a big Eagles fan, have to take solace in the fact that with all the adversity, you still will get to host a playoff game and get to win the division. over the Cowboys, mind you, which has always got to feel great.
Sweeter.
But if they win this game, I know Eagles fans have to take solace in the fact that, hey, you're still, now that you're in the playoffs, everybody's 0-0. Mm-hmm. All you got to do is win it, survive in advance, just like college basketball.
Let's remember there was one 9-7 team way back in 2009 by the name of the Arizona Cardinals, who made it all the way to the Super Bowl and almost upset the Pittsburgh Steelers in Tampa.
Let's pump the brakes on that a little bit. Now, if, let's say, for instance, if these Eagles were in the AFC, winning a division, squeaking in, and having, I like their chances in the AFC better than I do the NFC. NFC is way too stacked.
That's why I'm kind of hoping the Seahawks don't beat the 49ers, and maybe we get the Seahawks at home, because we played good against the Seahawks.
Right.
So, we need some things definitely to fall our way, I think, to make that kind of rise. But
yeah, I mean, you've got, we're talking some of those teams, 49ers, Seahawks, even the Packers.
They beat on the road in Lambeau.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways this could play
Who
out.
else? Oh, the Saints. Can't forget about the Saints.
But another interesting fact, though, is that if the Eagles do make the divisional round, it's already been announced that if they come divisional round time, they might be able to get Deshaun Jackson back. So that could be.
I'm glad he decided he actually wants to play now. Yeah, that's great.
It's like show out
if
first
you make
game,
the playoffs, I guess I'll come back.
Yeah, right.
I guess.
But I think the Eagles definitely are going to be able to take this one. The Giants have been playing really great, especially with Danny Dimes. However, I think the Eagles defense is, if they can play anywhere near the level of what they did against Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, I think they're going to give Danny Dimes all kinds of headaches, and they're going to be able to pull this one out. I think it's going to be close, maybe like a 3-point game, but I think the Eagles win outright and take the NFC.
I think it'll be just like the last matchup. I honestly do. Maybe not overtime, but it'll be a nail biter. Oh, yeah. The one thing I'm worried about is if Eli Manning was able to do what he was able to do in the passing game, what's Danny Dimes going to do? Mm-hmm. I mean, the Eagles ranked 19th in pass defense, and we can talk about the Giants' poor defense all we want. So I think this could be just like the last game played out, but maybe a little bit more scoring, I think.
There might be, too, also with Ronald Darby now being out again. Right. So that's something else to keep in mind.
That's a huge loss.
Huge loss. But they got Avonte Maddox back, their rookie corner, who's been playing, honestly, really great in the second half of the season. So there's so many variables that can go into it, but we'll definitely see how it plays out. In our other 425 game, we have the 7-8 Indianapolis Colts traveling to Jacksonville to take on the 5-10 Jaguars. No implications, nothing that can happen. Colts were eliminated last week by the Saints when they were absolutely dominated. But one of the Colts receivers was able to give me enough just for fantasy. And then you have this game where Jaguars had a lot of high aspirations as well going into the season. Now that's all gone away. This is a game that means nothing. Who do you got? I want so badly for the Jaguars to end the season on a high note, end 6-10. Because you got, just taking a look at some of the stats that could happen. Gardner Minshew could hit 3,000 yards, 20 touchdowns. DJ Chark could hit 1,000 yards receiving. Fournette quietly has had 1,100 yards season. He really has.
And the one thing, that's the one side of me. The other side of me is like, no, just tank and lose the game so you can get a better draft pick and then hopefully build this team a little bit better. But with Caldwell still running the show at GM, I don't think it's going to happen. The key to this, the Colts have the 4th best rushing offense in the NFL. The Jaguars, for all the studs they have on that D, 28th rush defense. Yep. That's the key. I think the Colts have a huge day on the ground. They walk into Jacksonville, they win, go 8-8, and the Jaguars are still scratching their heads wondering where the AFC Championship team from 2 years ago went.
Absolutely. The Jaguars are not going to be able to contain Marlon Mack. Marlon Mack, I think, is going to be the talk of this game. He's going to absolutely run wild all over this defense. And the Colts are going to end up taking this one. I think it's going to be by a decent little margin, probably a 14, 17-point win. Probably.
You're looking at the offense. Jacoby Brissett is playing decent, but not great. The Colts have the 28th best path, I guess 28th worst, whatever, how you want to look at it. Are ranked 28 in pass offense, but their rush defense is 8. And when the Jaguars can't get Fournette involved in the offense, they struggle because they don't have other weapons or an offensive line to protect whoever the quarterback is, whether it's Minshew or whether it's Foles. So that's what I'm really looking at, and I think it's not really going to be that close of a game. And unfortunately, Jags fans, hey, another 5-11 year.
It's always next year. But
Doug Marrone should be fired. So should Caldwell.
Well, they already got rid of one big.
They did get rid of Coughlin.
So,
but I don't. The one thing I don't understand is why, when you get rid of him, why not get rid of clean house? Just clean everybody, because obviously we talked this. We were going to talk about this last episode, but the all the grievances from the NFLPA, like the Jaguars are the most grieved about team in the NFLPA from all the players in the league this year. So all those mandatory workouts, quote unquote, that they had to do, but they got fined if they didn't show up. I don't know why you don't clean house, get rid of everybody. Caldwell's shown he can't draft well. He can't go and get the right guys. Marone has had 2 winning seasons, 1 playoff appearance over his tenure on 2 different teams. He's been horrible. I don't know how he got a head coaching job to begin with. But, hey, I'm not the one making the decisions.
I think what it really comes down to is they didn't want to clean complete house before your last game of the season, also it being a home game. I think, moving Coughlin makes it easier, given what his position was, to clean him out early. Yeah. But I think they're just going to try and keep status quo. But honestly, once this game's over, I wouldn't even give it a week. I probably wouldn't even give it a day
Next
or
day,
2.
Monday.
That everybody's starting to get cleaned out.
If I'm Shad Khan, or if I'm close to Shad Khan, I'm in his ear like, yo, Monday morning, ship everybody out.
Yeah.
Just get rid of the head coaching staff, get rid of the GM staff. Go find somebody that has been proven to build a winner, and honestly, go take a chance on a head coach, or find who's the best candidate. Who's actually a good candidate?
Mike McCarthy.
I was going to say Mark McCarthy, but you know who else? Who? And actually, this would make a lot more sense.
Don't say Urban Meyer.
Ron Rivera.
Ron Rivera would be wonderful.
He would be. I think Ron Rivera would be a great idea, because think about the guys that have been head coaches of Jags.
Imagine what he could do with
Gus Bradley, defensive coach. I mean, you got Doug Marone, who's, I guess, a defensive kind of coach, maybe. I don't know.
Team. Sorry.
Yeah, special teams. But I think Ron Rivera would be a great hire for the Jaguars.
Absolutely.
And he's a great guy in the community. He does a lot of different things on and off the field. I'm throwing that hat in the ring. Like, that should be the next head coach of the Jaguars.
Honestly, I'd have to agree. That'd be a great hire. So we'll definitely see how that one plays out. In our next 425 game, though, we have the 8-7 Pittsburgh Steelers, who have outside chances of being able to make playoffs, who are going to be traveling to Baltimore to take on the 13-2 Ravens. The Steelers will get the 6th seed with a win and a Titans loss. But the big thing about this is that the Steelers are going to be without running back James Conner. So that's something that's going to be a real big blow. However, Baltimore's already locked everything up. They've already locked up their division. They've already locked up the number 1 seed in the playoffs. They have nothing to play for. So as such, we'll be benching some of their starters, including quarterback Lamar Jackson. So with all this taken into mind, who do you think is going to end up taking this game?
I think it'll still be a very competitive game either way, because the Ravens are at home. Obviously, there's a lot of bad blood between these teams. So no matter who's playing on the field, they want to spoil the season for the Steelers.
Absolutely.
The Ravens do. But Lamar Jackson's sitting, Ingram's sitting, Marshall Yanda's sitting, Earl Thomas is sitting. A lot of their big names are sitting. And the Steelers, I mean, if you're Duck Hodges, there's no Mason Rudolph because he's out for the year now. It is on you. You're auditioning to Mike Tomlin. I want to be the quarterback for next year. I don't think he's going to get it because he throws too many picks.
Then Ben Roethlisberger already said he wants to come out back next year. So,
well, they need to get rid of him too. But that's a different story.
But that's a whole.
But yeah, I think the Steelers. I think the Steelers pull off this game in a tight one, and they hope that the Titans lose.
I think the Steelers will end up pulling this one out in a very close battle. I think it'll be just enough to help squeak them in, even though they're going to end up with a first-round exit. But either way, considering where the Steelers were going into the season, losing the quarterback second game of the year, this season was lost from the get-go. To even be in this position, to possibly have a winning season and make playoffs.
And it's weird that somebody predicted that.
Somehow, someone did.
Somebody over here said they were going to have 5 wins.
3 feet away from me who predicted this.
And I predicted that less is more. I didn't predict Roethlisberger going down, obviously, but
I don't think anybody did.
Less is more. They're a much better team without Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown. And this shows, they've had a lot of injuries, but they're still 8-7. That's what good organizations do. Take notes, Detroit. This is what good organizations do. They still win when guys get hurt. Eagles are another good example. Yep. They're still winning even though a ton of guys are hurt.
This might be one of the best stories with the Eagles. I think this might be the most injuries ever for a team to make playoffs, maybe. I don't know. Let's check it out.
But I'm going to throw this out there. I know a lot of people have been saying it. Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin should be hands down coach of the year.
Oh, absolutely. He's been absolutely killing it. But the big thing is, though...
And he doesn't have to deal with Antonio Browns anymore.
Well, yeah, that too. But the big thing is he's going to be able to keep his job. And that's going to be the big thing, because even though Mike Tomlin is a Super Bowl winner, even though Mike Tomlin's been able to put out a lot of great seasons for the Steelers, everything now is about win, win, win. Now, the thing for the Steelers organization, though, is that they like guys that are entrenched. My biggest fear is that they're going to end up having a complete losing season and just kick Mike Tomlin to the curb.
There's no way they would have kicked him out.
It would have been a horrible decision.
With the Rooney still running that team, there's no way they fire Mike Tomlin after one bad year.
Oh, I absolutely agree. But crazier things have happened.
True, crazier things have happened.
But in our last 425 game, we have the 8-7 Tennessee Titans traveling on down to Houston to take on the 10-5 Texans. The Texans have all but locked up their division, so really not a whole lot to play for, except for the Titans, who will get the 6th seed if they can get a win, and if the Ravens end up beating the Steelers and can squeak their way into playoffs. Who do you got?
I've been hearing rumblings that the Texans are going to bench a lot of players because they won the division already. They're in the playoffs, but Bill O'Brien's being very tight-lipped about it. I think they end up benching a lot of players, and even more so if they don't bench players. Look at that offensive line has not been great yet again, and the Titans have a strong enough defense. I think they can create enough turnovers. Coupled with their strong run game, they're number 6 in the NFL in the rush offense. I think they can pull off the upset on the road, and I think the Titans take this one, even if the Texans don't rest players.
I don't know. This one's, I think, going to be interesting from every single corner, just because the Tennessee has so much to play for, and they've shown that they do have really good defense when they really want to show up, and now they have an offense that can match it. And that's the crazy thing to me, is that Ryan Tannehill, after being shipped out by Miami and now is in Tennessee, has been absolutely killing it. However, the Texans still sport a good defense, and let's not forget, the Texans also have J.J. Watt back, and that is a huge boon for your defense to have that, especially when you're getting ready for playoffs. So even if they rest a bunch of players, though, I think the Texans have much better depth, especially on the defensive side of the ball, to be able to hold the Titans at bay if needed. And I think the Texans are actually going to win this one, but it's going to be razor close. I'm talking 1, maybe 2 points. But in our last game to end our regular season for the 2019 season, our 8:20 Sunday night game, we have the San Francisco 49ers at 12-3, traveling up to Seattle to take on the 11-4 Seahawks in a huge divisional matchup. The winner will win the NFC West, and the 49ers can get home field if they get this win and have the Saints and Packers both lose.
The 49ers want revenge from that last matchup. That was obviously a thrilling game, came all the way down to the wire at the end of overtime for the Seahawks to win. The matchup here, I think it's going to go very similarly to the way the last matchup did. It's basically San Francisco's defense versus Seattle's offense. But the key here is, I saw a stat earlier this week, Russell Wilson is the most sacked quarterback this season in the NFL. I think he's taken like 48 sacks or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think, coupled with the fact that 49ers really desperately want to win the division and take another step forward in their maturation process for the organization, and what Shanahan and Lynch have done for that team, I think they're gonna win. It'll be a very tight game on the road in a very, very tough environment, but 49ers win the division, and maybe win home field.
Ooh, I don't know.
Maybe.
It's going to take a lot, but at the end of the day, I have to agree. I think the 49ers want revenge after having that heartbreaking loss to Seattle. Nobody thought Seattle had a chance in that game originally, and the 49ers are going to be looking for revenge, and I don't think the 12th man is going to be enough. I think the defense is going to be able to get after Russell Wilson. Like you said, he's been sacked more than any, and I think he's going to be under pressure all day. He's going to be having to throw on the run, having to get himself out of tight situations, and I think it's going to be just too much for that offense to handle. Even with the return of certain running backs into that stable, I don't think it's going to be enough. The 49ers, I think, are going to take this one. Also razor thin, but the 49ers take it. They're going to win the division, but I don't think they're going to get home field, so something to throw out there. But that's our slate of games, man. It's going to be crazy. Right now, though, we're going to take a quick rundown of the NFL seeding as it stands right now. As it sits right now, the Baltimore Ravens and the New England Patriots hold the 1 and 2 seeds in the AFC and the first round buys in the playoffs, followed by the Chiefs at 3, Houston at 4, Buffalo at 5, and Tennessee at 6. Now, obviously, some of this can change on the bottom end between with Tennessee. May get in, may not get in. Pittsburgh still has a shot. Oakland has an extreme outside shot, but it's basically a 3-team race for that last position. But where things get interesting is with the NFC, because the NFC is so wide open in so many different areas that it's honestly what we're about to read off might not end up being what it is. But as it stands right now, your number 1 seed would be the San Francisco 49ers, followed by the Green Bay Packers at 2. Obviously, they had their head-to-head matchup, and we know who won that one. So that ended up deciding that. But as of right now, those 2 teams would have the first round bye. And then looking at our wild card, it would end up being the Saints at 3, Eagles at 4, Seattle at 5, and Minnesota at 6. As this sits, though, a lot could happen with the NFC East title as a whole. Could be Eagles, could be Cowboys. Cowboys need a lot of help to be able to get that spot. But when looking at our first round buys as a whole, 1, 2, 3, and even 5 all have shots of being the number 1 seed in the playoffs, as well as in addition to having a first round bye. So much could change with how this looks going into playoff.
Yeah, so many scenarios could happen. You mentioned 1, 2, and 3 are all 12-3.
Yep.
So there's so many different scenarios there. Talked about NFC East, Eagles, if they lose and the Cowboys win, Cowboys get in on the tiebreaker. There's a lot. All this field is basically set, unlike the AFC. Titans hold the tiebreaker over the Steelers, so if they both tie, Titans would still get in. The rest of the field is set. I mean, I think this is probably some of the most top-heavy competition we've seen in the NFL in a while. Because I don't think, how many times have you seen all the teams get in at 10 wins plus? It hasn't been very much lately. Most of the playoff wildcard teams are 9-7, 8-8.
But for all your division winners and most of the teams that are qualifying to be in this kind of position, especially having 3 teams at 12-3 in the NFC, all having a shot in the last week to have that first round bye, and still Seattle also sitting there on the outside, also having a shot. So it's absolutely crazy to think how a lot of this is going to play out.
Yep, but, jockeying for position on the top and at the bottom for the NFL draft. Of course, you got the Cincinnati's taking the top spot. Second is the Redskins. Third is the Lions. In order to get, no one's getting that top spot. Cincinnati's got that locked up.
Yeah,
but
it's locked up.
2 and 3, even 4 is kind of up for grabs. I mean, Lions are hoping the Redskins pull off an upset against the Cowboys, which would be huge.
So am I.
Yeah, especially for the Eagles. So, lots of things happening, lots of shuffling. This is going to be a really exciting weekend of football for both teams that are trying to get in the playoffs, and of course for teams like my Lions who are trying to get the number 2 spot.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting, but definitely stay tuned when we come back next week, and all of this will be finalized, and we'll be able to bring you the finalized list of all the seeding for the NFL. It's going to be really exciting. I'm really excited for these playoffs because I think the Eagles are getting in, baby. But anyways,
see what happens.
We're going to move on a little bit of NFL news. We had mentioned a little bit earlier that the Atlanta Falcons are going to be bringing back head coach Dan Quinn next season, along with GM Thomas Dimitroff in 2020. Will they be there beyond there? Don't really know. They're definitely going to need to make some changes if they want to have any kind of shot at being able to keep this team together. Still had some good offense that happened. A lot of injuries, though, that kind of hampered this team, I feel like, especially on the defensive side of the ball. What can this team do really to get back to where they need to be?
Well, the one thing is keeping that continuity helps because realistically, if you look at Dan Quinn's record, just the last 2 seasons have been losing seasons. His first 3 years, he went 8-8, 11-5, 10-6, won the division once, made it to the playoffs twice, and lost that Super Bowl against that 28-3 Super Bowl in 2016. Man. But I think this next year is the make or break year for Dan Quinn because you can't realistically go 3 years in a row of 6, 7, or 8 wins and expect to keep a job. So I think this is going to be a very big offseason for Dan Quinn and company. They've got to get healthy. They can't stay healthy the last 2 years. That's going to be the big factor, I think.
Absolutely. I have to agree. And being able to keep that continuity, like you said, is also going to be huge. But it's funny. I saw a meme the other day that says the Falcons are still just getting trolled incessantly about that 28-3. There was a picture of some Falcons footballs that were on sale at Walmart that were listed for $2.83.
That's great.
It's just so awesome every time I see it.
That's great.
It's
I love it.
So good. But honestly, though, Atlanta, I think, still has the capability to be able to get to where they want to go, especially with how this season is ending thus far. They've been really strong in the second half of the season. So if they can keep this rolling, get people healthy, and like you said, keep them healthy going into next season, I think they have no problem being able to get back to the upper echelon of the NFC and maybe even challenge for the NFC South title next year. Yeah,
they've just got to keep the defense healthy. I mean, look at what Matt Ryan's done. Even missing a few games this year, he's still got 4,000 passing yards. I mean, this offense is still one of the top passing offenses in the league, even without Ridley and Jones for stretches. So that's what they need to do. They got to shore up on defense, get healthy, draft well, and have a good offseason, sign a couple of key pieces. And I think they'll be right back in the mix, like you said, to compete for the NFC South.
Absolutely. But at this time, though, we got to pay these light bills to keep them going. So definitely make sure you stay with us. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the XFL schedule that has now been completely finalized, as well as a little bit of news in NHL and NBA. But make sure you stay with us. We'll be right back.
The following support and sponsor Podcast City Network. City Limits Tap Room, sports bar in DeLand, Florida, has brew on tap, serve food, the grilled cheese is excellent. For upcoming events, check out City Limits Tap Room on Facebook.com/City Limits Tap Room. Atlantic Sounds has thousands of new and used vinyl records and CDs. If they don't have it, they can order it for you. Same location since 1982. For more updates on what's new, check out Atlantic Sounds on Facebook.com/Atlantic Sounds Vinyl. Sports Sanity Customs have worked with organizations from custom embroidering polo shirts to jerseys for your kids' baseball team. They do it all. Armed with state-of-the-art equipment and an in-house design team, they are equipped to take on your next project. Visit their website to learn more, sportsanitycustoms.com. Visit Sports Sanity Customs on Facebook.com/SportsSanityCustoms. 3Count Design offers a wide range of graphic design products, video, photography and other forms of media. Everything from t-shirt designs to websites. Visit Facebook.com/3CountDesign for more. Demo Blast Studios, an explosion of imagination. Original artwork, podcasts, video, apparel and more. Visit DemoBlastStudios.com. Visit Demoblast Studios on Facebook.com/Demoblast Studios, the best family entertainment pro wrestling show in the state of Kentucky. Kentucky's Own Wrestling brings quality family vintage wrestling to a town near you. Kentucky's Own Wrestling offers a ladies division in wrestling and a training school. Kentucky's Own Wrestling is the current longest running Southern promotion. Visit Facebook.com/Somerset Kentucky's Own Wrestling. All supporters and sponsors are brought to you by Podcast City Network.
And we are back here on Final Score with Chris and Craig. I bet you couldn't do that sound right now, could you?
I could not. I'm trying to keep my voice as low as possible. If it sounds monotone, I apologize. I'm not that monotone ever. It's very animated.
I'd rather you have a voice at the end of this, and that's going to be the big thing, true. Because when you don't, once you lose that voice, I'm going to incessantly make fun of the fact that you have this Michigan Wolverines helmet sitting on your table now. Did she get you that for Christmas?
It was a Christmas gift. Yeah, it was a Christmas gift. Also, my
nice.
my Bluetooth wireless Michigan headphones too. It's great. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Oh my goodness. Let's get on to what we need to get on to. So the XFL did come out with a finalized schedule for all of their teams, including TV times, networks, the whole nine. And honestly, some of it kind of made sense, I guess, but I felt like they could have maybe done this in a way they could have had all the teams play each other. But I don't know, it's kind of interesting either way. But here on your screen, as you see now, week 1 on Saturday, February 8th, we will be having the Seattle Dragons playing at the Washington D.C. Defenders at 2 p.m. on ABC. Should be a decent game. The next day, going to be followed by St. Louis at Dallas. Now, as you see with the kind of format, they're going to have one game Saturday, one game Sunday, and roll that every week in the week following the Super Bowl, starting with these two games. So definitely going to be interesting. Vipers.
Their slots right now, they're looking at for Saturday, 2 games, 2 and 5 p.m. Sunday game at either 2 and 5 or 3 and 6. Mm-hmm. They try to do a little bit of a split, but they're in prime time hours on the weekend, and they're on ABC, Fox, ESPN, FS1, ESPN2. I see. I think it'll be a really, really intriguing the first couple weeks. I think you're going to see a lot of viewership the first week, but the thing that's going to be the telltale sign, just like with the AAF, remember they had almost record views the first week. Mm-hmm. And then after you saw the sloppy play, after week 2, guess what? All your viewership dies away. So the XFL, if they want to be competitive on the ratings market, they have to put a good product on the field. So they're in training camp right now. Tampa Bay, our hometown team, at New York, they actually get they don't get their first home game until week 3, which is Saturday, February 22nd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and with what we have listed here is a lot of the ABC, ESPN lineups, which, as you see, ESPN's also going to be hosting the playoff games, the championship game, which will take place in the second half of April. So definitely something to kind of keep an eye out on. I think it's going to be pretty exciting to see how some of these matchups will go. The biggest thing I think that helped the AAF is that there was a lot of exciting games to start the season, so a lot of attention was focused into teams like the Orlando Apollos and, of course, the San Antonio team. So I think if we can
rest in peace, Apollos.
It's okay that we were champs. That's right.
the little Apollos thing.
I love it. Gosh, we need to bring him back. Anyways,
we need that team back. Damn it.
Yeah, maybe the XFL could bring in an Orlando team, buy all the rights.
Would you want to work with Ebersol? That's what I thought.
Yeah,
if they would just be able to release everything and give it all up so that way the XFL can absorb it, because I would honestly love to see the natural rivalry between a Tampa Bay and an Orlando team.
It was even like when we had the AFL with the Arena League, when you had the Orlando Predators and the Tampa Bay Storm. That was such a great rivalry between
absolutely.
those two teams. I think they could pull off the same here, honestly.
And I honestly think if the XFL is successful, they have the 8 teams now. I think they could expand by even 1 or 2 teams on each side. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're talking about you could have an Atlanta team. Easily an Atlanta team. You could have, obviously we're going to be in favor of an Orlando team.
All day.
That would be great. But, look at some of the different markets. Even in the East, you've got DC and New York, and then St. Louis, Tampa. Like, there's no logistics there.
Yeah, none at all. It's kind of just hodgepodge thrown in.
Yeah, you can honestly pick any big city. You could go back to Memphis where the AAF was. You
Absolutely.
could go like any of the cities that they were in. You could have a team there too.
Absolutely. And a lot of that could work out real well. And we'll definitely see how this works out. I'm really interested to see how it's going to work. But the one thing I think everybody loves more so than anything is that once the Super Bowl's over, that's not the end of football,
There's still football.
There's still going to be at least 12 more weeks of football.
Yeah. Haters are going to say that it's not real football, but get off your high horse.
I'm sorry.
It's still football.
They wear helmets and shoulder pads and play on a full field.
Those people that are going to complain that the XFL is not real football are the same damn people that sit down and watch 2 6-6 bowl game teams fight and punch referee. Oh, wait, sorry.
Ha ha!
Sorry, did I just call out Eastern Michigan?
Oh man, not Eastern Michigan and Pitt. Man, that was something.
That's an ugly game. But those are the same people that are going to call out, or they're going to call out the XFL, are the same people that are going to sit down and sit their ass to watch a 6-6 bowl game.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Get off your high horses.
We'll definitely see how a lot of that plays out. But moving on to some NHL news. Oh my gosh, you're fired up for a sick man.
I am. I'm fired. I'm always fired up. You know that. I'm always fired up.
You're always fired up. But in the NHL news, the NHL released their top 100 players of the decade. There definitely was some interesting choices on here. Not too many snubs, thankfully. I know sometimes that happens, unlike the NFL top 100 of the decade list, where Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers were both left off the list.
But did you see who was on that list?
Yeah, I did, and it was a hard list to argue with.
Once that's done, I am not against. I'm against maybe not having Drew Brees on there.
Yeah,
Aaron Rodgers. I'm sorry. I'm not saying that as a biased Detroit fan because he's absolutely one of the greatest quarterbacks of this decade. But top 100, You're gonna choose him over Brady, Montana, Manning, Marino? I don't think so.
No, I definitely
Get out of
wouldn't.
here.
But either way, though, the NHL released their top 100. We're going to run through some of the notable names that we noticed on this list, starting with a certain right winger who played for the Florida Panthers. I can't pronounce that name.
Jaromir Jagr.
Yes, please?
Yes, Jaromir Jagr. So it's really interesting that he's made this list because he's 45 years old, still playing in the NHL.
There.
He is. I mean, he's been such a mainstay in the NHL from the 80s, 90s, and now into the 2000s, 2010s. Definitely deserving to be on this list. I'm a little surprised he made it because he's in his already mid 40s, but he's had some great seasons nonetheless. So he jumps in at 98.
Yeah, and he was they attributed him to being like the Mick Foley or the Terry Funk of the NHL. Just being that old-timey vet who played with everybody. Because that's the big thing is that a lot of everything he did, the 120 goals, the 202 assists, the 322 points, Flyers, Stars, Bruins, Devils, Panthers, and Flames. That's 6 teams right there. That's all. That's a fifth of the league. Like, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, he finally gave up. He's playing back in the Czech Republic. But I mean, he's
for Kladno, yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely deserving, I think, to be on the list.
Absolutely. At 87, if I can actually do numbers today, Andrei Vasilevsky. I was close. Goalie for the Tampa Bay Lightning also comes in on this list. A lot of great names on here, though, especially Patrick Marleau, left wing for San Jose Sharks, Jerome Ignia, right wing for the Calgary Flames. You know what?
Oh, we're doing an NHL name. We're doing an NHL name.
We were supposed to do this like a year ago. We never did.
Well, we did the NBA during the playoffs. It was fun. During the NHL playoffs, I'm going to do it this year. We're going to make it an annual thing. It's going to be great.
Oh, Jacob Voracek, right wing for the Philadelphia Flyers. It was another one. I remember him playing a lot of great years with us. So it's definitely real good stuff. Yeah,
looking at some of the Tampa Bay team players that have made this list. You already talked about goalie Vasilevsky. Martin St. Louis, the right winger, made it at 33. And that's it for Tampa Bay. Looking at your Flyers, you had Jacob Voracek make the list. Red Wings, we had Henrik Zetterberg, center and captain for the Red Wings, make it at 57. Pavel Datsyuk, just outside the top 10. It's a bit of a travesty that he did not make the top 10 because he's one of the greatest players of all time, but he ranks in number 11.
But we also had one other Flyer.
Couple big names.
Center Claude Giroux.
How did we leave him off?
Yeah, center turn winger. He was tied for 16th in the NHL in points per game average during a tremendous decade that he had. So definitely a lot of great players on this list.
There's so many. I have this very short list of just notable ones, obviously that are famous or well known. Take a look. It's on ESPN.com. I believe it's on NHL.com as well.
Yes.
But there's so many big names. No matter what fan of what team you're on, there's so many big ones. The Sedin twins came in at 54 and 53. Daniel and Henrik Sedin for the Canucks.
Yeah, back and back. Huh.
Yeah. Joe Thornton makes the list at number 37. Marc-Andre Fleury at 42. Goalie for the Golden Knights and the Pittsburgh Penguins.
There it is.
Yeah, that man. PK Subban makes it at 30. Defenseman for the Nashville Predators. Zdeno Chara, the huge towering defenseman from the Boston Bruins.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see, what do we got?
Vladimir
Tarasenko for the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah.
Number 6, Evgeny Malkin for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And then 3, 2, and 1, Ovechkin, Connor McDavid, and Sidney Crosby.
Yeah, I definitely could agree with that. All three of those men, absolutely amazing what they've been able to do for their teams. Go ahead.
I hate that Sidney Crosby's number 1.
Honestly, personally, I think I would put Ovechkin 1 and put Crosby 2, followed by McDavid, just because McDavid hasn't been able to pull off a Stanley Cup yet.
Right. I'm
yet.
Yeah.
But
I'm a little surprised that Ovechkin wasn't number 2 or even 1, but the big knock on Ovechkin was always he couldn't win the cup. Mm-hmm. So the fact that he wasn't number 1,
now.
But now it did. So I'm a little surprised that Ovechkin wasn't number 2 and Connor McDavid number 3. Mm-hmm. But Sidney Crosby, it makes sense because they won multiple cups during the 2010s.
And they were always competitive even when they didn't win. Usually they were right there losing in the finals.
Much as I hate to say it, because the refs handed them a Stanley Cup against the Detroit Red Wings. Just saying.
You're not salty, are you? Would you like some
real
salt?
salty?
Real salty?
Real salty. I'm real salty. I hate the Penguins. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all good. We won't hate against you on it. But in other
I respect
news,
the talent, but I hate the Penguins.
Oh, my goodness. In other news, though, we did have a little bit of a tragic incident happen. I can definitely not pronounce that name. I'll go ahead and let you.
I'm probably going to butcher it, too. The Leafs have a 25-year-old rookie, Ilya Mikheyev.
You did better than I would have.
That's probably a pretty correct pronunciation.
That's why we have you running.
But so he's out 3 months. He severed an artery and tendons in his wrist. So he was cut by a skate of a game in a game earlier this month by the Devils' Jesper Bratt. Bratt had a shot deflected, and then he got tripped onto the ice, causing his skate to go in the air, and it sliced Mikheyev on the wrist, who was defending him. 25-year-old rookie. He's going to be out for 3 months. They say he's going to make a full recovery. But to give you an idea of the high hopes they have for Mikheyev, he scored his 7th goal of the season before suffering this injury, and he also had 15 assists in his 38 games so far this year. But the Leafs have been on a roll lately. I think they've won 6 straight, and they're now second in their division. So they definitely want to have him back to help build that team back up a little bit, because he's definitely going to be a little bit of a cornerstone for them moving forward.
Yeah, they've won 6 straight, and they've also won 8 out of their last 9. They've been playing absolutely out of their minds, beating the Devils, Hurricanes, Red Wings, Rangers, Sabres, Oilers, beating everybody, honestly, and now are 21-14-4. So looking pretty in their division now, second. So, but definitely we wish a speedy recovery. Definitely not something you want to go through, especially when you're having such a hot night. So glad to know that he's going to be okay after having his surgery, and that he should be back in roughly 3 months and be able to help his team later on at that time. But definitely a scary situation. You never want anything like that
Absolutely. That's one of the scariest things about hockey, is that if someone gets tripped and a skate goes up, those things are sharp.
What was the one? So who's that one player who ended up having his throat sliced?
Yeah,
way back in the 80s or 90s.
I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it was in the 80s.
I was just talking to someone about it recently, and it was like we were talking about how scary those situations can be, because with this sport, unlike any other, you get pegged with a football or hit helmet to helmet, normally you're going to be able to bounce back in some type of fashion. But taking a sharp object and having it, slice any part of you is never anything you want to have happen. And these players always have to deal with that type of possibility every single time they go out on the ice. So definitely, always a scary situation, but glad to know that he will be okay.
Yeah, definitely. Just going to do a quick rundown.
We could do a quick rundown. We might as well.
So we'll start with the Maple Leafs over there in the Atlantic. Top 3 teams that are going to currently make the playoffs out of the Atlantic Division: Bruins, Leafs, Canadiens, sitting at 1, 2, and 3. The Panthers and the Sabres are right behind the Canadiens, 1 point behind in the 4 and 5 spot. In the Tampa Bay Lightning, they're struggling this year, man. What do you think? What's going on?
5-4-1 in their last 10. Have not been able to get any kind of consistency. Score differential starting to go up, but they just can't get it done, especially on the road where they're 8-6-2. Even at home, 10-7-2. It's not looking good right now.
Yeah, they're struggling right now. They got to find some consistency. I think this is really got to be you got to have at some point a light bulb moment. Like, hey, we got to get our ish together and start playing like the team that we know we are. Because they had such a historic season last year.
Oh, yeah, they did.
And, it sucks because sports in Florida is not always very popular outside of football. So it's nice to have a team that's succeeding, so that way you have that strong fan support as well. Rounding out the bottom of that division, the Senators, and, of course, my Red Wings, who are the worst team in the NHL by a long shot. And we just lost Anthony Mantha for a few months. It's going to be a rough season, man.
Yeah, and you're on a 4-game losing streak, losing 8 out of your last 10. Just not looking good for you guys, especially on the road. 4-12-2, 5-14-1 at home ain't much better. So
it's okay. In Stevie we trust. We trust. This is his first season. We'll give him some time. Moving on to the Metropolitan Division, we have the Capitals, who are at 59 points. They are leading the league in points right now, and they have a 10-point lead over the number 2 Islanders. Pittsburgh Penguins at number 3. Your Flyers are on the outside looking in the 4th spot in that division, but only 1 point behind, and they're on a 4-game win streak.
Yeah, they've been playing real hot, been playing real great hockey. Once they finally got everything together. But looking at the bottom four, the Carolina Hurricanes, Columbus Blue Jackets, New York Rangers, and the very disappointing New Jersey Devils were expected to do so much more. Just kind of putting around now at a 12-19 and 6.
Yeah, they're for all the expectations they had coming in this year, for them to struggle like this really has to be disappointing in that organization.
Absolutely.
Moving on, the Western Conference in the Central Division, St. Louis Blues, no fluke. What happened last year? They were at the bottom of the conference.
Now they're here.
Yeah, they were at the bottom of the conference at about this time last year. This year, they're at the top, 56 points, 25-8-6, 7-game win streak. Followed closely behind them, the Avalanche, the Jets, the Stars, and the Wild.
Oh,
pretty close behind.
So breaking news just came through. The Jacksonville Jaguars have informed head coach Doug Marrone that he will be dismissed following Sunday's game.
Hell yes. Hallelujah.
Yep, officially announced.
Now his next is Caldwell. Caldwell's got to go too.
He has to, and I think that's happening. It only makes sense. It honestly only makes sense because you're not going to want to try and keep any type of that regime in place if you're not able to win games. So time for a full overhaul.
Yep. Rounding out the bottom of the Central, we got the Predators and the Blackhawks. Predators are really struggling right now. Not in any position to make the playoffs, but just like we saw with the Blues last year, anything can happen. Mm-hmm. So that is going to be fun to watch. That whole division from top to bottom is going to be fun to watch in the second half of the season.
Absolutely. Look at the Pacific Division is being currently led by the Arizona Coyotes, and these teams have the lowest points as leaders of their actual division. So this one really could end up being very interesting. Coyotes with 46 points. You got Vegas Golden Knights sitting right there with them, followed by the Calgary Flames and the Edmonton Oilers, all trying to make a vie for position here in this division that's being very hotly contested.
Yeah, top 4 teams are separated by 2 points.
Yep.
I mean, that you could not expect more of a competitive 2 points.
2 points.
2 points.
2 points.
That's what I said. 2 points. 2 points. But the hot start that the Oilers had, they've really cooled off. They're 2-7-1 their last two. But that combination of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, they really, they need more help around them. That's really what they're needing out of that duo. Rounding out the bottom half of that division, Canucks, Ducks, Kings, and the Sharks fall back to the bottom of that division. They started down there, moved up to about midpoint of the division, and now they're back down. They're at 16, 20, and 3, 35 points, bottom of the division, 1-7-2 in their last 10.
Horrible.
4-game losing streak.
Absolute night and day from where they were last season.
Completely
Night and day. But moving on, we're going to move on to a little bit of NBA news at this time. A lot of little things have been happening. A lot of teams just kind of trugging along, but want to take a look at a couple things that were kind of interesting, including Zach Randolph, who has now announced his retirement, ending a 17-year NBA career.
Yeah, nicknamed Zebo. He was a big man. He's taken from Michigan State in 2001. Started with the Portland Trailblazers. He ends his career with 18,578 points and 10,208 rebounds. He was the double-double machine in his heyday.
Absolutely.
I mean, he played for Portland, the Knicks, the Clippers, the Grizzlies, and the Kings. Obviously, he's most known for playing for the Grizzlies in the grit and grind era. He was known for kind of being a dirty player and having a short temper. But when he went to Memphis and they clicked with you had Conley there as a young player. You had that slow, grinded out type offense, but they played tough defense.
And amazing defense.
He became a staple of that run that they had to make the playoffs so many consecutive years. But great. He's not playing with a team this year. His last team was with the Kings last season. So great career for him. And it's sad to see him go, but he's kind of the end of that slow era. You don't see that anymore. Those kind of teams do not really succeed.
You really don't. But quick update, though. Notre Dame is now up 10-0 on Iowa State after a pair of fumbles by the Cyclones. So I don't think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be any kind of a game. Just saying.
That defense has really just got to pay attention to Brock Purdy. I mean, that's what's going to come down to. That's who's the catalyst for their offense. If they can slow him down, I think they have a really good shot at dominating the game.
But you know who else is dominant? one Clippers Kawhi Leonard, who is now being honored as the AP Male Athlete of the Year for the year 2019. He's the 5th NBA player to win this award, joining Larry Bird, who won it in 86, 3-time recipient Michael Jordan, who won it from 91 to 93, and of course 3-time recipient LeBron James, who won it in 13, 16, and 18, and we can't forget Steph Curry won it in 2015.
Absolutely. Looking at some of the standings here for the NBA, of course we had our big Christmas games a few days ago, but excuse me, starting in the Eastern Conference, the Bucks riding a big wave right now, 8-2 in their last 10. They're 28-5, and they look like to be the dominant team in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, they're currently leading the entire league in wins and are absolutely being dominant. Definitely going to see how that'll work out. They're 9-0 in their division and 18-3 in their conference, and are scoring a whopping 120 points per game.
Absolutely. Number 2, just kind of going down the list here. Number 2 and 3, both the Celtics and Heat are 4 games back. How about the Miami Heat?
Yeah, making it happen with Jimmy Butler. Tell you what,
Jimmy Butler leading the way, but not only you've got so many. You got Bam Adebayo there. Tyler Hero. You've got Kendrick Nunn, who's playing well. Duncan Robinson. There's a lot of really good young players in that team, and they're playing surprisingly very well for a team that was supposed to be kind of rebuilding. Mm-hmm. They don't look to be rebuilding at all.
No, I think they are. They're ahead of schedule right now. So definitely gonna be something to look out for.
Just a smidge.
Just a smidge. But right behind them, you have the Toronto Raptors, Philadelphia 76ers, and the Indiana Pacers, all trying to keep pace. No pun intended. However, all of them have just lost a game, so all of them are still keeping pace with one another. So interesting how that works out. Of course, we can't forget the 76ers just lost to Orlando Magic on the road by 1 point. Oh, sorry. My shooting wrist got a little active there. But that's our 4, 5, and 6, and you have Brooklyn Nets and Orlando Magic.
You're right-handed. You should be more active than that.
Should be, but I'm ambidextrous, so I go.
Oh, so you're a switch hitter is what you're saying.
Switch hitting.
Gotcha.
Tell you what.
You're a sick man. Anyway, rounding out 7 and 8, Brooklyn Nets are at number 7 at 16-14, and hey, 8th place, Orlando Magic,
That's
still
right.
in the playoff hunt, even though they're 14-17, struggling on offense, absolutely atrocious. One of the worst offensive efficient teams in the league. But hey, you can still make the playoffs and get crushed by the Bucks.
We got a better offense than the Knicks.
Yeah, that's not saying much.
Well, I thought maybe it would matter. Golden State even scores more than we do. Anyways, looking at the teams on the outside looking in, you got the Charlotte Hornets, the Chicago Bulls, and the Detroit Pistons, and the Washington Wizards, all right there on the outside looking in, with just within 4 or so games of the Magic, all of them trying to make a push. However, Charlotte Hornets have been on a 4-game losing streak. The other one's been kind of going back and forth, so definitely going to be interesting to see how that works out. But the Wizards, 2-8 in their last 10, definitely not helping them.
I think the biggest disappointment in this NBA Eastern Conference right now is the Atlanta Hawks. They're sitting at the bottom of the Eastern Conference, 6-26. Mm-hmm. They are on a 9-game losing streak, and they just can't get it together. I mean, Trae Young just went down with a sprained ankle, so he's out for a game. But
they got Vince Carter.
Yeah, 41-year-old Vince Carter is on his last season. But the Atlanta Hawks, they've got a long way to go. A lot of people thought they'd take at least somewhat of a step forward. Mm-hmm. They look like they could be another 20-win team this year, which is not a good sight if you have young guys like Kevin Huerter and Trae Young and John Hollis on that team. You want to try to take steps forward, not be taking steps backward.
Yeah, definitely. They've been able to only manage 1 win in their past 10, or on a 9-game losing streak. Have not been able to really make it happen. So it's definitely been very disappointing for that team, especially, like you said, with the talent that they have. But looking at the Western Conference, we have the LA Lakers, who are now 24-7, and the number 2 team in the league, currently leading the entire Western Division. LeBron James has been dealing with a groin injury, but will be returning, I believe, tonight for their game. So definitely something to watch out for as they move forward.
Yeah, chasing right behind them, we have Denver Nuggets, the Clippers, the Rockets, and the surprising Mavericks at 5. Woo. They are still running very hot right now, 6-4 in their last 10. They have a score differential of +8, which is the best in the Western Conference, which is really surprising for that team right now.
Yeah, it definitely is, and it's also third best in the league overall, so something definitely to watch out for. Right behind them, the Utah Jazz, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Portland Trailblazers, all trying to vie for position to keep themselves in the playoff race. Oklahoma City Thunder, no one really expected to be in any kind of position for playoffs, so interesting to see them here at 7.
Yeah, especially getting rid of Russ Westbrook and Paul George, and they brought in Chris Paul, and they look like they were better because of getting rid of those star players, which is, like you said, very, very interesting to see them this high up. The Portland Trailblazers, I think they might be finally trying to turn it around. You know how far down they were in the standings to start the season. Brought in Carmelo Anthony. Anthony is playing like Carmelo Anthony. We know he's a scorer. It's the other stuff of the game that you got to worry about. On the outside looking in, you got the Spurs, Kings, Grizzlies, Timberwolves, and, oh wait, where did the Phoenix Suns go? They dropped down to third worst in the Western Conference.
Yeah, they've absolutely tanked and have lost 8 straight games. Have only managed 1 win in their last 10. Has not been pretty for the Phoenix Suns after they had that hot start to start the season. But right behind them, the New Orleans Pelicans and the Golden State Warriors. Golden State had a huge upset as part of this 4-game winning streak that they're on. But still, sitting at 9-24 are not going to be any kind of real threat going forward.
Yeah, we say this I feel like we say this every week, but the Warriors have to be the most disappointing team this year. But when you lose Curry, you've already are out Klay Thompson, you don't have Kevin Durant anymore. They have to find themselves again. And I think that's what they're going through right now. They know it's going to be a struggle. But I want to highlight the New Orleans Pelicans because I think it was somebody on this set was saying they would be a playoff team.
Maybe,
this guy over here.
Possibly.
But you can say as much as you want what kind of an impact Zion Williamson could have.
And he's had none.
Yes, he's been injured a lot of the season, but I've said this before, I will say it again. I don't think that Zion's game can translate that well in the NBA, but injuries are going to be a big concern. I think if they handle it just as well as the Nationals did with Steven Strasburg with all the injuries he had in early his career, could end up being well. But Zion has to develop the other parts of his game while he's injured. He's got to do as much as he can. That's going to be a big thing.
That's definitely a big thing. Brandon Ingram's honestly been that team while he's been away, averaging 25 points a game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's been at almost a 50% clip for his field goal percentage. So it's really been all Brandon Ingram. Also, Drew Holiday being in there to really try and help with relief. But not having a complete team around you definitely is gonna hurt you greatly in these types of situations. So yeah. I'm not too surprised as of right now to see him at 9-23, but I definitely want to see what happens when they do get Zion back, when you do have that kind of factor in, and to see how he's going to play when you have everybody else, because they do have good players. It's just having them all available, and that's going to be the thing.
Right, and they came off they had a 13-game losing streak recently in this last month. So just to give you an idea of how bad it's been for them. But there's talks about Drew Holiday might be on the move. They might trade him to, I've heard Miami is a possibility, which would be huge for that team because they could absolutely use a point guard of his caliber and leadership ability. But I think the Pelicans, even with Zion back, your athleticism will only take you so far, which is what dominated him at Duke. And I honestly don't think he would have had the same impact in the NBA draft if he would have come straight out of high school like the old rules were. He was a YouTube sensation in high school. And then he dominated at Duke because of his athletic ability, his size, his strength. NBA, everybody's faster than you. Everybody's bigger than you.
Absolutely.
You've got to win with skill, and that is what I like best about the NBA is that skill always will trump athleticism unless your name's LeBron James.
Oh yeah, obviously.
But
that's how that's looked at. But that's been our NBA news at this point now, though. We're going to take a little quick shot on over to take a look at this week in sports history.
This week in sports history, let's kick it off with December 28th, 1905. The Intercollegiate Athletic Association of the U.S. is founded, becomes the NCAA in 1910.
In December 28th, 1958, the greatest game ever played, the Baltimore Colts beat the New York Giants 23-17 in the first ever sudden death overtime game in NFL history. And in this game, there were 17 future Hall of Famers that were playing in this contest.
That's crazy. And to think about how the overtime rules since 1958 still haven't changed until, 2 years ago? Yeah, get with the times, NFL. December 29th, 2007, Tom Brady sets the then NFL record for throwing his 50th touchdown pass, and the New England Patriots become the first team in NFL history to finish the regular season 16-0.
How'd that end for him?
They should have been undefeated. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but then they lost to the Giants. So, just saying. Anyways, January 1st, 1902, the very first Rose Bowl game is played at Tournament Park in Pasadena, California, as your Michigan Wolverines trounce Stanford 49-0 behind the great running of fullback Neil Snow, who was named MVP of the game.
About the last time anyone ever used a fullback.
Yeah,
January 2nd, 1982. The quote, the Epic in Miami in 85-degree heat, Fahrenheit, of course. The San Diego Chargers defeat the Miami Dolphins 41-38 in overtime in the AFC Divisional Playoff game. A game that set numerous playoff scoring records.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That was the, if I'm not mistaken, that was the Dan Fouts San Diego Chargers, correct?
Mm-hmm. That it was. January 3rd, 1993, the comeback. Quarterback Frank Reich led the Buffalo Bills back from a 32-point deficit to defeat the Houston Oilers 41-38 in overtime in a wild card playoff game, the greatest comeback ever in pro football history.
Frank Reich. Man, that's a name you hadn't heard in a while.
I know.
Outside of coaching, really.
Well, outside of coaching, of course. But that is this week in sports history. And now we make the good old move for the give or go.
All right, I'm gonna I'll toss this first one up to you. How about that?
All right, let's do it.
Antonio Brown to the Saints. Give or go?
I'm going to give on this only slightly. Now, the New Orleans Saints did work out multiple wide receivers on Friday at their training facility to try and keep their options open in case any of their wide receivers happen to have gone down with injury. They did say Friday night that they were, quote, just doing their due diligence, end quote, and don't intend to sign Brown as of right now. However, you're not going to work out that high profile of a player unless you have a little bit of clarity, which the team did reportedly reach out to the NFL seeking clarity on the Brown situation and his allegations of sexual assault against him. This is the big thing I see with this whole thing. Even if they try to sign AB, he might end up on the exempt list. But you can still appeal being put on the exempt list.
And still play.
And that's what I think is why they even bothered working out with him. Because otherwise, why are you going to waste the time? There's no need to waste anybody's time if that's going to be the case. So I feel that maybe the Saints and Antonio Brown have a good feeling that that appeal would go through, given that there's been no decision on the litigation and the accusations against Antonio Brown.
Here's the thing about that.
Okay.
NFL has not been pressured to investigate like they said they were going to investigate because nobody wants to touch this guy right now. Mm-hmm. And so with the Saints now kind of dipping their toe in to see if there's any clarity from the NFL, now the NFL's got to, we got to continue our investigation and find out. But the question is, the question for this will be AB and Drew Brees in a YouTube video of No White Women 2020. Too soon?
Oh my God.
Is it too soon?
This is a family product, sir.
Wait. I got a better one. How, if he makes the Saints over under 1 week before AB calls Sean Payton a cracker?
Oh my God.
No, is that too soon? Come on.
No,
come on.
I think it'll only take 4 days. That's my guess.
So you got the under. I'm also taking the under. He will do it in like day 3.
But that's what I'm saying is that I don't think there's anything real solid with this quite yet, but it's something to keep an eye out on because now I feel like teams are going to start taking this chance and trying to give workouts with him as they are going to start pressuring the NFL to be like, hey, we have this guy who's a top flight wide receiver,
right?
And we want to be able to play him, but we're not going to take the chance unless you guys decide what you're going to do with him. And that's, I think, where things are going to get interesting because I think no matter what, if the NFL decides to drag their feet too much, they're not going to have any way to hold off an appeal because they're nowhere near done with their own investigation. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and there's a lot of talk out there about should this guy even have a chance anymore? Actually, we were requested by fans of the show on Instagram to do this, to talk about this segment right here, but. I don't think the Saints sign him just because the fact, yes, he's super talented, and that would be a huge threat on the other side to go opposite Michael Thomas.
Absolutely.
But even he was a pretty good team player in New England when he was there, except for the whole texting people back and like just he's not right. He's not right, and he's not mentally right. I don't think he needs to get help.
They seem to sign a big guy named Bubba who takes care of everything for him. Oh, you want to send a tweet? Bubba got you covered. You tell him what you want to say, and he'll send the tweet.
Oh, it's like
you need a sandwich, he can make you something.
It's like the Key and Peele skit about Obama's translator.
Yes,
I love it. I love it. I love it. But I don't think any team touches him.
No.
He will play for someone next year, but I don't know how long that will last because he'll be on the exempt list. They're going to go through their investigation. And I think they'll end up they'll end up finding him guilty of certain things that would keep him from playing. Mm-hmm. He's going to go off on another tangent and blow up again. And then he's going to be right back where he was right now next year again. I don't know if he plays NFL.
I don't know.
Again.
My thing with it is that there's been no movement on the legal side of things. So I don't know if the NFL is even going to have a leg to stand on.
They have no pressure either to do anything right now.
And that's what I find interesting is that a lot of this, if they take too much time, will eventually just get dropped and thrown out.
Oh, well.
It's going to have to be.
Because it's Antonio Brown. All you got to do is bide your time and wait. He'll do something stupid again.
That might matter with the NFL, but with these current situations,
legal
if it takes
proceedings
too long in the court process and nobody starts following through, this will end up falling by the wayside. It'll take a while, but it will fall by the wayside if nothing gets done.
In the public eye, yes. But it won't in the legal system because the prosecution, they're doing the smart thing right now, waiting and biding their time. Because if we know anything about Antonio Brown, it is only a matter of time before he does something stupid yet again, and that's only going to help their case and make it stronger.
But that's a what if scenario, and
that's a when scenario.
No, but if it hasn't happened, that is a what if scenario. And that's the thing I'm saying here is that you can't just wait for something to happen because at the end of the day, I could say, oh, you might commit murder. That's a what if scenario, and whether it's true or not, we can't hold everything up because of a what if scenario. And
that's true. OJ got away with it.
That's what I'm saying. You have OJ who walked scot clear because of a what if scenario. So at the end of the day, I don't see them being able to bog it down for long. It's going to take almost the better part of a year for this to be able to fall by the wayside. But at the end of the day, if nothing moves, nothing moves. And by the NFL can't do anything.
By that time, Antonio Brown, so the legal stuff, it's going to take its course, right? We all know that. One way or the other, yeah. One way or the other, it's going to take its course. But I'll give, they were waiting on moving forward with prosecution. Mm-hmm. And what happened while they were waiting? He sent texts to people that accused him.
Apparently making all kinds of egregious claims and threats.
And what else happened? Remember him destroying a resort?
Hotel or resort, hotel room or something of that nature?
My point, exactly. Exhibit A, Exhibit B, case closed. This is going to happen. You just got to wait for him to do something stupid because he's not right.
Well, I'm not saying he's not going to do something stupid. That, I think, is a foregone conclusion. It's just at this point with what he's already being accused of, nothing's been moving. So I don't think they could hold back an appeal even if they wanted to.
I think because of those what ifs, NFL teams will stay away because the workout. Okay, if you're the Saints, you're going to work out Antonio Brown. No, just watch film. This dude's good.
Well, yeah, but he hasn't suited up since, when was that, week 3 or 4 for New England?
Doesn't matter. You know he's going to stay in shape.
You would hope.
But
Marshawn Lynch had to do a 2-week super beast mode just to get back in shape to play.
But this is Marshawn Lynch who,
is just here so he doesn't get fined?
Yeah, exactly. But the Saints, they weren't doing this workout for the sake of the workout. They're doing the workout for the sake of, what's the NFL going to do? Mm-hmm. They're literally kind of poking the bear of the NFL to say, hey, are you going to wake up? No? Okay, let's sign him. And as soon as they sign him, they're going to wake up.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what they're playing right now.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. But in our next spot, college basketball top 25, we are on to our, 6th number 1 team this season? Give or go.
Want to give real quick because the number 1 team, Gonzaga, is our 6th number 1 team this year. Oh, yeah, their one loss, by the way.
Oh, who was that?
Getting destroyed by 18 points by Michigan. Yo, what's up? I know Michigan's struggling, but the Big Ten for Michigan, they jumped up 3 spots. They're back to number 11. They're 9-3. But Michigan is in, I think, and I wholeheartally believe this, the Big Ten is going to be the hardest conference in basketball this season. Ohio State's number 2, 11-1. Looking down, then you got Michigan, Maryland, Michigan State. Penn State is ranked for the first time in God knows how long. Iowa, Illinois is a good team. Illinois took Maryland to the wire, beat Michigan at home. Mm-hmm. I mean, this conference is going to be the best conference in college basketball. I would not be surprised if they get 7 or 8 bids. ungodly amount of bids.
There's still 2 undefeated teams, though. Both not in the Big Ten. In Auburn and San Diego State. Not that it means anything, but it's just showing how parasitic I feel like the season has been. Teams are knocking off teams left and right. You're not going to be able to make it through this season undefeated.
Absolutely not.
And it's already hard enough to do. We've only seen so many be able to actually truly pull it off. But at the end of the day, it's so parasitic. I think you're going to end up having a logjam at the top of the rankings on who's going to end up with the top seeds come March Madness time. So it's going to be really interesting to see how a lot of this plays out.
Yeah, but looking at number 8 Auburn, they haven't really beaten anybody. I think their biggest Power 5 opponent they've played this year, their only Power 5 opponent, has been NC State, and they won by 6 points. But they're getting into their SEC conference. SEC is a tough basketball conference every year. San Diego State is a nice story because being in the Mountain West, they're statistically one of the better teams. They've beaten a couple of good teams this year. They beat Creighton, Iowa. And that's about it right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, like you said, I think this is going to be one of the most exciting years for college basketball because there's no Zions. There's no dominant team.
I
6
agree.
number 1 teams already by January. That's
awesome.
That's an unheard of amount.
That's awesome.
College, I think college basketball, the March Madness tournament this year is going to be probably the most exciting tournament we've seen in years. And that's saying a lot because look at all the upsets we've had in the last couple of years.
Oh, absolutely.
The parity is so crazy. I mean, look at Oregon's number 6. They're 10-2. They went on the road to Michigan and won in overtime. That was a hell of a game. I watched that whole game. It was a lot of fun to watch. But there's so many good teams out there. To take your pick, good luck because number 1 team, you don't want to be the number 1 team right now because you're probably going to lose.
Yeah, you're probably going to end up losing at some point.
But tossing up the next one to you, I thought this was hilarious. Do you want this one or do you want the Seahawks?
Oh, no, I want this one.
Okay. Jameis Winston reportedly is seeking over $30 million a season in his next contract negotiations. Give or go.
Oh, I'm going to give on this. I'm about to tear this one a new one because in no way, shape, or form is Jameis Winston anywhere near worth $30 million a year. You're trying to tell me you're on the level of a guy like Aaron Rodgers or even a Carson Wentz or even a Jared Goff. Bro, you ain't got nothing on those guys. Let's go ahead and just take a gander at his stats this season. In the 15 games he's played, he is 7-8. He has thrown for 4,900 yards. That's awesome. 31 touchdowns, even better. 28 interceptions, which could very possibly end up setting a single season record. This guy is absolutely ridiculous. And oh yeah, 61% completion percentage. You're telling me that's worthy of $30 million a year? The only reason you even have 61% completion percentage is you have guys like Chris Godwin and Mike Evans running down the sidelines, catching the balls that you can't get to them because they're having to play 50-50 balls, jump up, and wrestle it away from guys. You honestly are a garbage quarterback who does not deserve to start in the NFL. And oh yeah, let's not forget the counterpart that he got drafted in with also is no longer starting for the team that drafted him. Just like you have no business starting for the team that drafted you. You are not worth $30 million a year, sir. You deserve to be on the unemployment line, scooping my burger into a bag and hand it to me, saying, have a nice day. That's about all you're worth to me. Maybe you can actually throw that darn burger in the bag and not have it intercepted by the guy next to you who's probably has a better arm than you do. I am done with this guy.
Wait, you know what? This is what Jameis Winston's trying to think, getting that $30 million. That's how everyone's laughing right now.
That's how hard I am laughing. That's a genuine laugh.
That's a genuine laugh.
That's a genuine laugh. This guy
Wait. This is why we need our soundboard.
It's getting there.
That's why we need our soundboard.
There. But I tell you, this guy is absolutely ridiculous. And I still don't understand how he has 7 comeback wins and 11 game-winning drives, all this kind of stuff. You are garbage. Garbage in the best degree that there is garbage. All right? This guy you can go throw in a landfill and you won't be able to tell the difference between him and the landfill. Like, it's that garbage. And you still have 1 game left to hopefully get your team to 8-8. Jameis Winston, I'm sorry. You're going to be unemployed. You're not getting a contract.
You know what's funny is I honestly wholeheartedly believe that the fact that Jameis Winston is on the leading passing team in the NFL. Yes, he's leading the league in interceptions, but Bruce Arians has kind of given him the keys Byron Leftwich is one of, I think, the most promising offensive coordinators in the NFL. I honestly, wholeheartedly believe that the Bucs are going to give him a contract and keep him in Tampa Bay. Of course, the hometown fans, the Florida State fans, are going to be happy about it. So will the rest of the NFC South, because they know that they're going to get 20 picks a year.
So a week ago, Ian Rappaport came on and was talking about Jameis Winston and the likelihood of him coming back. And he said that Tampa Bay has reported they do plan on having him back in the 2020 season. However, beyond that, no one really knows. Obviously, it would be an option year if they bring him back. They always expect that if they're going to franchise tag him, it's going to cost them $27 million. If they transition tag him, that's $25 million. You can save him a couple more million. But I just don't see them being able to throw money at a person who is barely performing. Like, yeah, sure, you got a great passing offense. Imagine if you didn't have all those interceptions, how much better of a quarterback he could be. And that's the problem, is that
but he's a gunslinger. He's a gambler. That's what you take.
There's a difference between a gunslinger and someone who's just irresponsible with the football. Because there's some throws he made this year that are just flat out dumb throws.
That's true. I mean, there's a lot of throws that he's made that he just was not either seeing the linebacker or just didn't see the coverage shading one way or the other. Like, he made decisions where he did not see people coming across the field. Like, he just made dumb decisions. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, and on that same token, if you have a guy who's not able to read the defense to that extent, to even be able to see a guy who might be in the passing lane, it doesn't bode well for the future success, especially for a guy who's only in his third, fourth year playing. So it's like fourth year. Sorry. So at the end of the day, it just doesn't make sense. Bruce Arians was even very non-committal on him past this season, but obviously it's not going to be his call at the end of the day.
But the question will be, who is going to replace him? Who would replace him?
I mean, given the state of the quarterback market, there are going to be a few that are going to be on the move. I can't believe this one just crossed my mind literally just now. Marcus Mariota could even be one. I think he could be a more manageable quarterback, especially having weapons like that at his disposal. I think
Marcus
he might
Mariota
be able to be safer.
He hasn't been all that great either, though.
But that's what I'm saying, is I don't know if he has enough to even be able to do it. So it's going to be real tough unless the Bucs go out and draft somebody, or maybe the Jags want to try and move on from Nick Foles early. I don't see any kind of way that Tampa's going to be able to get a quarterback outside of the draft, honestly.
And that's part of the reason why I think they're going to end up giving Winston his money.
Oh, my gosh. That's so dumb, though. Like, that's like picking the lesser of two evils. Like, this isn't an election now. Like,
You're right. But I mean, at the end of the day, you gotta go with who you think is going to give you the best chance to win football games. And unfortunately, as much as you would hate to admit it, Jameis Winston is their best option at winning football games. Yes, he's going to throw picks, but they're 7-8 when most people thought they were a 4 or 5 win team.
That is true, and that makes it so sad, and it's so hard to argue with what he has been able to do, but I just feel that the negative far outweighs the positive, because I think the negative is going to get you in a lot more trouble with all the turnovers, because this doesn't include all the fumbles he's had either.
Right.
So it's just hard for me to want to stick with a guy that's so turnover prone, because you look at it, they're in a position where they can finish 500. If he doesn't throw 28 picks and throws at least half of that, this could be a team that's 11-5, maybe even 12-4 going in the playoffs. Maybe.
I don't know about that, but I mean, this is a team. I mean, you could be talking about this could be a playoff team. Absolutely.
At the very least, I mean, maybe a wild card, because
I can see them being. I can see them being a 10-win team.
This is a team that even last year, dominated New Orleans early on in the season. This is a team that can find success. They just have to limit turnovers. That's all it ever comes down to for them, is turnovers, and finding a running back that can run more than 3 yards at a time. But either way, though, it's going to be interesting. But Seahawks signed running backs Robert Turbin and Marshawn Lynch after Chris Carson and C.J. Prosise go down with injuries. Give or go?
I'm gonna go a little bit just on this, just because of the fact that yes, they're bringing back 2 guys they've already had. Marshawn Lynch is a huge pickup, and they're not. Pete Carroll said he's not gonna be afraid to play him week 17. Mm-hmm. They're playing for the long game, and you need that help for Russell Wilson, who I mentioned earlier has the most sacks of any NFL quarterback. It's not the offense of this team I'm worried about. It's the defense of the Seahawks that I'm worried about. They're in the bottom half of the league in a lot of defensive categories, so I would be more worried about the defense. I don't think it'll be that much of an issue. You know what the offense is going to do. Mm-hmm. Seahawks are going to be a problem in the postseason, but Marshawn Lynch is a big addition, but I don't think it's not a huge needle moving move. You know what I mean?
Right, I got you. I think it's more of just them being able to get a backlog so they actually have options at running back that'll be able to move the ball in any kind of way. So I think this is more of just a insurance policy for playoffs more so than anything. Because no matter what, Seattle's making playoffs. So, you want to be able to have that kind of longevity at the running back position going into playoffs. But with that is give or go. And now we're going to move on to the week ahead, which first thing that we're going to have right off the top is NFL Week 17, the last week of the season. Action kicking off tomorrow at 1. All the games will be on Sunday, and it's going to be quite the event. So many teams vying for playoff implications, some even for the number 1 seed in the conference, especially for the NFC. It's going to be very interesting, and a lot of teams are trying to get in, but I still think the biggest story right now is who's going to end up representing the NFC East. The Eagles right now currently leading the division, need to win against the Giants. If they win the division outright. However, if they drop the game to the Giants, they will be hoping on the Cowboys to lose to the Redskins to be able to make playoffs. Otherwise, Cowboys will win the division and represent the NFC East. But we also have a bunch of bowl games, especially right now. Notre Dame is leading 13-3 against Iowa State with 4:50 left in the first half of that game. Penn State playing tough against Memphis. Penn State up 21-13 in their game with 7.5 left in the first half. But the big game's going to be tonight with number 1 LSU taking on number 4 Oklahoma and number 2 Ohio State taking on number 3 Clemson in both of our semifinal college football playoff games. It's definitely going to be really exciting ones to watch.
Absolutely. Michigan's got their bowl game on New Year's Day. They're playing here in Orlando, and they're playing against Alabama, unfortunately. Going to be an ugly game. So Alabama fans, congratulations, you won already. Anyway, but that's going to be one of the big ones. Of course, we got games in Tampa.
Yep.
The Gator Bowl in Jacksonville. You got that's coming up this week as well. It's gonna be a lot of fun. If you're a fan of college football, this is the week between now and a week from Monday. Those are gonna be the best bowl games are happening right now.
Oh yeah,
most of the 6 and 6s and the 7 and 5s are done now, thankfully.
Yeah, most of them are, but you still have like the Orange Bowl with Florida taking on Virginia. Definitely going to be an interesting one out of Hard Rock Stadium. Of course, Utah looking for respect against Texas. Of course, you mentioned the Michigan-Alabama game, but you also have Minnesota taking on Auburn in the Outback Bowl in Tampa. Oregon taking on Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl. That's going to be a good game. And of course, Georgia-Baylor in the Sugar Bowl. That one could be very, very interesting. Going to be Jake Fromm's last game with the Bulldogs. So definitely going to be interesting looking at the rest of these bowl games.
Yeah, lots of fun. College basketball, big matchup today. Number 3 Louisville going to number 19 Kentucky. This is always a big rivalry game. Happens every single year. The battle for Kentucky supremacy, I guess you could say. That's happening today at 3:45, just in a few hours on CBS. And conference schedules start next week. So after the new year, conference schedules start. Lots of big games. Obviously talked about the Big Ten's going to be a really tough conference to play in this year. But yeah, that's conference schedules start, and then we really get into the meat of the college basketball season.
Oh, yeah, and it's going to be exciting to make sure to get all those updates. So, yeah, check us out here on Final Score, and it's real easy. All you got to do is go onto our social media accounts right up here, PCN Final Score. Just give us a search on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Give us a like, give us a follow, drop us a line, and more importantly than anything, leave us a rating. Let us know how we're doing. We always try to bring the very best show that we can to you guys, the fans. And, of course, you got to check out all of our different content platforms. That way you can make sure you don't miss any episodes of Final Score. All you have to do is right down here below, go to Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Podbean, YouTube, Stitcher, TuneIn, and, of course, Google Play Music. Search keyword Final Score, one word, and give us a like and follow there. That way you can always keep up to date on the latest content released by us here at Final Score. But, again, this is the end of our episode, and it's been a good one, bud. It's our last episode of the year, man.
Last episode of 2019. It's honestly been a great year. I think we've really grown a lot in obviously production. We've got kind of a new studio. Taking steps in the right direction. We've actually got a better setup than we did when we first started the year. I'm really excited. I know we're going to be talking about the future of the show later on today and talking about what directions we want to go. So just please let us know. Give us your opinion. Like Chris said, all the outlets you can let us know. But yeah, we got some big goals set up for the next year. And everybody, hope you all had a great Christmas, enjoyed it with friends, family, loved ones.
Definitely.
And have a great new year. We'll see you in 2020.
Yeah, definitely have a happy new year. And then we're going to see you in 2020, hopefully with 2020 for sports. That way we can always bring the latest and greatest in sports. So make sure to join us next week when we come back with episode 42. But until then, have a safe rest of your holiday and a happy new year from the guys here at Final Score. I'm Chris. That's Craig. Y'all have a great night.
Podcast City Network.